You guys look like two seals fighting over a grape.
We do? What's the grape?
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cheap Seat Critics Podcast, where today we're continuing our coverage of Phase 1 of the Marvel movies. With me today is, hello, I'm one of your hosts, a Geeky Writer.
I'm one of your hosts, Crimson Maroon.
Hello, I'm one of your hosts, Sprinks, I guess. Hey, if you're listening from, oh boy, wherever the Grand Prix was, that was in Brazil or something, right?
Monaco.
Monaco. Hey, if you're listening from Monaco, you can find us over on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky. For the socials, we also have a LetterBoxd account where we have our average out graphs and numbers of everything we've covered, kind of like sequenced into seasons, which is pretty neat. We also have a YouTube and Rumble for visual side of things. Maybe that's where you're watching us right now. But hey, we also have tons of audio platforms out there where we also have that available for you if you wish. I think that's everything.
Yeah, and today we are covering Iron Man 2. Shock, shock, surprise, surprise. We're continuing our coverage of the MCU. Let's start with our histories. I will pick Sprinks.
Oh boy. I have seen Iron Man 2 maybe 4 times, maybe. I don't know. It's again early MCU. I can't recall if I saw it in theaters. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I have a few various Iron Man comics in case you haven't heard our coverage of Iron Man 1 and are more excited in Iron Man 2. I've seen a little bit of Iron Man TV shows, like the Invincible Iron Man. I've seen Earth's Mightiest Avengers cartoon, which was my first introduction to Iron Man, I believe. I've played Iron Man in some various video games. And I think that's about it.
All right. I'll go next. My history for Iron Man 2 is I think I've seen this movie more than Iron Man 1 as purely a product of I had it on I had a digital copy of it. Because that's when digital copies were becoming all the rage. You can buy a box DVD and get a digital copy, so you can bring a digital version with you everywhere on your phone, stuff like that. And this is one of the movies I just had freely available with me, so I used to watch it quite a bit, going to and from places. And so I've probably seen this more than Iron Man 1. Similar history to Sprinks outside the comics bit. I've read maybe 2 Iron Man comics in all my life. I've played a bunch of games, Temple Run Iron Man, which Crimson and I share some history on. And I've seen him in a couple animated TV shows growing up. And I will turn this over to you, Crimson.
All right. Copy paste Sprinks minus the comics, pretty much. I think I've probably seen this about 4 times as well. I've played Iron Man several different games, as listed in our first coverage of Iron Man 1. You can go check that out. But that's the extent. I haven't really seen any of the animated Marvel shows, so I don't have that attached to me. And I have a little Infinity War Iron Man statue, little thingy. That's it.
Nice. Well, if that's for histories, I'll just jump straight into facts, gentlemen, if you don't mind.
I think so.
All right. This is obviously directed by Jon Favreau. Distributed by Paramount Pictures. Release dates was April 26, 2010 in El Capitan Theater, and May 7th, 2010 in the rest of the United States, with a runtime of 125 minutes, with a budget of between 170 million and 200 million, with a box office of 623.9 million. So definitely made its money back.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Scarlett Johansson. Whew, man, let's rewind that back. Scarlett Johansson dyed her hair red before she even got the part of Natasha Romanoff because she wanted the role that badly.
Nice.
I
Dedication.
love,
Made
yep,
for the role.
love hearing that commitment. You know.
I guess she was fine with her hair changing every single instance of her iteration throughout the MCU.
Yeah, there is definitely a degree of that. uh, uh, According to director Jon Favreau, the technology in this film was portrayed as more futuristic. I think we mentioned that in our coverage of Iron Man 1. After the first film, a number of tech companies talked about how uncanny a lot of our depictions of technology had turned out to be, and how many different films and video games ended up being inspired by the imagery we used. This forced us to go a bit further into the future and try and change the nature of this technology. If we just duplicated what happened in the first one, we would be behind the curve. So now we're dealing with holograms, the interfacing within the suit, and the suit being upgraded too.
Much better. That was one of my big nitpicks of the first movie.
Uh, yeah. There are numerous news clippings shown in the film showing Tony Stark and Ivan Vanko when they were younger men. Most of these are actual photos of Robert Downey Jr. and Mickey Rourke, both of whom came to fame in the 1980s.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Jon Favreau had a lot of friction with the Marvel higher ups due to their constant intervention, to the point that they were having him rewrite the script as the film was still shooting. In particular elements such as the increased prominence of the Shield subplot, where the result of a need to establish the greater Marvel Cinematic Universe in preparations for the Avengers in 2012, at the expense of the coherence of the film's own plot. These disputes got so bad that Favreau turned down directing Iron Man 3.
Huh.
Interesting.
Well, that explains it.
That
Well,
does explain quite a bit, yeah.
I that makes it interesting because I think my favorite elements of this film is Shield's involvement. So I
Yeah,
it's kind of a good choice that they did that.
yeah, I have some more commentary on, I guess, Jon Favreau's directing, but we'll get into that, I think, during our coverage, probably. Um, Samuel Jackson was promised that Nick Fury would be given more screen time by Jon Favreau. Jackson almost didn't return to play Fury due to the problems with contract negotiations, but secured a landmark 9-picture deal to play Nick Fury not only in this movie, but in many other Marvel Studio productions. And
Whoa.
thank goodness for that.
Wonder if he loved his screen time in Age of Ultron.
I mean, easy paycheck, right?
I suppose, but it's no Ving Rhames and Mission Impossible, like 4? Was it 3? I think it was 4.
Yeah. And my last fact for today, and this is one where I will say, remind everybody that I'm taking all these facts straight off the internet, so take them with a grain of salt. Supposedly, Rob Downey Jr. convinced Mickey Rourke to play the role by suggesting that he could be in a film that people would actually watch.
Ho 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 ho. Woo!
Yeah, kind of a burn, but also not untrue.
Yes. There's someone you would have casted over Mickey Rourke for Whiplash?
Me?
Either of you, yeah.
Uh, Not off the top of my head. Uh, I actually really haven't given it much thought because I saw this movie since I was a kid, so I just took everything with like as is. I never really thought about who I would cast in the role.
Okay. I just didn't
Did
know.
you? Did you have any people you'd
Uh,
want to see over
I,
Mickey Rourke? Because
no one immediately comes to mind. I mean, just stereotypically placing in like the guy who plays Igor Kokorov, but no. No, I just don't think Mickey Rourke's that great of an actor.
I would agree. I don't. I think he's probably my pick for least favorite actor in this film. I think he does a serviceable job as Whiplash, but I easily my pick for weakest actor. Um, and I guess with that, we will dive into the coverage unless anyone would like to add facts of their own.
I
No
don't.
facts over here.
Alrighty. The plan today, audience and my fellow co-hosts, is we're just going to be popcorning freely around the film, and we shall start with Crimson.
Lovely. I love starting first. Where should I begin? Let's go to the F1 race. I may or may not have some issues during this whole event that takes place. But
I might
I
as
will
well
just
too. We'll see.
start with Iron Man's plot armor, or Tony Stark, whatever. That flip in that car when it got cut in half is incredible. Very lucky he didn't die or get concussed or knocked out or really anything. That would have been pretty lethal.
I would say I would extend that to the whole sequence when he's
Yeah,
like,
I mean, Whiplash was like he whipped the ground in front of Tony, and Tony flew into a debris. And I'm like, oh, thanks, Whiplash. You could have just whipped him with it. You would have done your job you wanted to do.
Just playing with his food. I don't
Eh,
understand how the cars get hit and they're like clean cuts, but then upon a collision behind causes an explosion to break out. I don't know why the cars aren't exploding upon Whiplash striking them.
yeah, and I'm gonna add plot armor for Whiplash too because the cars crash behind him and he gets hit by nothing. It looks cool, but it's lucky that none of the debris hits him.
Yeah, no
it's lucky
shrapnel.
but possible. What's not probable is him getting rammed in the gut by a full force car driven by Happy and him just
And being able
laughing
to
it
walk
off.
afterwards.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of blood on his lip and he laughs. And like, okay, this should be like signs where the mom's pinned to the tree.
Oh, jeez. Well, his makeshift like power converter reactor thing gives him some armor ish.
I think they would need to show that. He has an exoskeleton on his back. If he had an exoskeleton on his legs, I'd be able to buy it more. But it just shows like him wearing orange pants.
Yes, his leg should be
I
broken.
Yeah, I think to fix that, if they gave him just a little bit of exoskeleton, I probably would be more okay with the hits that he takes and is able to just spit out blood and pretty much walk off.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even like full upper body armor or anything. There's a lot of exposed skin. I'd have to look again, but I don't even know if he has like armor wrapped around him. It's like straps or something holding the front plate and the back plate.
Yeah.
I don't think there'd be a way for it to absorb all the energy from the car.
Yeah, like I said, an exoskeleton's more of just a quote unquote writer's excuse without necessarily having to commit to doing too much.
Yeah, and I guess
S
just more plot armor. His
Yeah.
freaking Pepper and Happy not getting whipped in the car either. That
Oh yeah.
that was excessive.
Yeah, the car is practically a still target compared to F1 race cars that are zooming past that he nails. I
It
am
was
not gonna
for
believe
comedic
that.
relief. It was all for a comedy bit.
I think so, and I do want to talk about that. I think that's a good transition, I guess, into one of my broader points about this film. I think there's a lot of comedy bits that last a little bit too long in this film.
Mostly with Justin Hammer.
Yeah, a lot of them are Justin Hammers related. I think this one also there's a point where it's just delaying in the Mark V suit up for no other reason other than just to kind of give us a sort of chaotic comedy feeling, and I do feel like that plagues the rest of the film, in a broad way. So,
I don't think the tone is necessarily smooth in the film.
yeah, okay, I can agree with that as a broad point
Yeah,
for
and it
sure.
might be because of that writing during the process of the movie.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. Iron Man 2 gets a lot of from my history of just being around this film because I've seen it so much. I do think that this film suffers. I used to blame Favreau a lot for what happened in Iron Man 2, but now I obviously kind of split the difference. Like I can definitely feel this is still very much a John Favreau film, but I think the cleanest parts of it are the shield bits where we get more of the world building and stuff like that. And that to me speaks more of, I guess he did need a little bit more. For me, that speaks to he needed a bit more oversight in order to like work to the best of his abilities. Um, but I obviously that's just my personal takeaway on that.
I'm curious what
Um,
this looked like without the whole Shield involvement. Because if it was just Whiplash and Justin Hammer without Shield helping Tony and stuff, I feel like that would be kind of a boring movie. Like
well,
Whiplash isn't very interesting.
If it kept
All
the
if
all
same they
things
have,
considered.
yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
if rumors are to be believed, the original script of the film wasn't Tony dealing with palladium poisoning. It was him dealing with his alcoholism.
Oh,
Okay. I
it's
mean
a
that
little
doesn't
darker.
change things too drastically in
Yeah,
terms of
it
film.
would be darker because I in one of the there was an article I read a while back that suggested that it was going to dive really hard into Tony's alcoholism to the point where there would be a part where he might beat Pepper.
Okay, too
Which
much.
would be which would be hard to bring the character back from. But I think that was the original intention being the alcoholism. Obviously, that's toned down into the palladium poisoning. I have my own issues with the palladium poisoning as far as world building is concerned, and I do think Tony Stark's alcoholism would have been interesting to tackle. But I do think that the beating Pepper bit would have crossed the line that they would not be able to bring the character back from.
Would the removal of Shield remove Black Widow?
I
Uh,
I would think
Probably,
so.
but I'm not sure.
If yes, then I lean more of the duller sense of a movie without it.
Because I don't know why John Favreau would add Black Widow to an Iron Man story unless they told him to. Kind of seems like a random addition to an Iron Man story
It's just
without
Well,
Shield
we know.
involvement.
it's set
Well,
up.
yeah, like I said, I think Black Widow would be here. I just don't know if she'd be as integral to the story because John Favreau, in at least in the fact section I read off, John Favreau was already wanting to include Nick Fury in a larger capacity, but just not as much as I guess Marvel Studios was happy with.
Yeah, I guess this boils down to is I don't know.
I will say the
Yeah.
character setup of Black Widow is a little more fleshed out in Iron Man 2 than a character set up in the next MCU movie.
I would 100% agree with that. I wouldn't even call that a setup. I'd call it a cameo.
It was pretty much a cameo.
Um, but that being said, Sprinks, do you want to jump somewhere for a point?
Sure, being it's popcorn, I like to keep it consistent with linear so I can like keep a hand on my notes, but I'll just do something crazy. I'll jump to something way out there. When Rhodey takes the suit after the party, has he ever flown one before? Because we've seen the
Uh,
practice in Iron Man 1 of how long it took Tony to control how to fly a suit. Rhodey does it with ease, and I think it's too much.
I wrote that down. Pretty much anything with Rhodey, I didn't like in this movie, but that's one of them where he's a kind of a Gary Stew, and I feel like people would be like, "Well, he's a pilot. He knows." This is completely
It's
different.
completely different.
This
And
is
Iron
this is
Man
not
suit's completely
piloting. This
different.
is
You may know how to fly a plane, you can't fly a helicopter. They're not the same.
So
yeah.
I think it's pretty inexcusable without them setting groundwork that he's been training with Tony or something.
Yeah,
Uh,
which I think is easily fixable. They just need to have a line saying, "I'm not practicing with you this week. I'm going to Venice," or
That could
something
help.
like that. Yeah.
I also have
Um,
a slight nitpick follow up to it. Jarvis allowed him to take the suit.
so
act
they
okay.
kind of have a line for that, but
They
right, go ahead.
do. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do have a line in defense of that. They say that Stark has protection protocols in place to prevent someone taking a suit, but the idea in that is he lacks those protocols around Rhodey.
Yeah.
So there is a Scarlett Johansson's the character that says the line that there is protections in place, but it implies that Stark relaxed those protections around Rhodey specifically because I think he was expecting Rhodey to be the one to replace him when because he was expecting to die.
Yeah, and
Okay.
Rhodey has the password into the room and everything, so
Yeah,
I
That's another
It
thing. It's
adds
not
up.
the same password. Him and Pepper have 2 different codes.
Yeah, I'm fine with them
That's
having
fine.
different entry codes. Yeah. I I think that I do wish that was a little bit more explicit because I do think I can infer enough that Tony would be the Rhodey would be the only one Tony would trust with the suit. So that's why the protocols around him relaxed because he was intending to give a suit to Rhodey anyway before he died. He was just clinging on to being Iron Man as long as possible. But I think I wish that was a little bit more explicit because it's not a reach, but it's not overt enough to for that most people would pick it up anyway.
Okay.
Um, I will jump to the beginning because I also like to keep linear with my notes. But one of the things I do like about this intro is we get a bunch of newspaper clippings to world build about what Iron Man's been up to since the events of Iron Man 1, which I do like quite a bit. Um, I and it's also character building for who Ivan Vanko is, and we kind of get to see the blueprint of the original arc reactor, and we get to see his dad's name on there next to Howard Stark. So we get a lot of we get quite a bit of character and world building just in the opening credits, accomplishing multiple things, and while he's building his own arc reactor to prove, I guess, that well, to kind of get back at Tony, I guess would be the way to look at it.
Yeah, essentially. I mean,
So
it
efficient.
seemed like his plan was to kill Tony, and then Hammer's like, "No, you got to go for the legacy." So, guess I guess that changed his thing. I guess I don't know.
I guess. And obviously that leading right into the intro at the Stark Expo. I very much enjoyed the. I do think it goes on a little bit too long, but I do enjoy the intro to Iron Man. Like he's living the dream and being popular and being very Tony Starkish. Um, and I do enjoy the intro scene to Iron Man when he dives off the plane.
Mhm.
Why does he need the plane?
um, I honestly I think that's just for cool effect. I don't think he needs the plane.
I thought it. I see it as a movie moment thing, just to be like, oh,
Yeah,
jumping out of the plane. Oh, that's so cool looking. But he doesn't need it.
yeah. I legitimately I think that's the only reason there. It's just a cool movie moment. If there's a deleted scene version of this where Pepper's on the plane with him, and that makes more sense, even though in that deleted scene they have an established relationship where they share a kiss. He throws his helmet out off the plane, and he has to go after his helmet and puts it on midair.
It's a bit better.
Yeah, that see, I like that because that justifies his presence in the plane more. But obviously, they don't go with that because they want more of the will they won't they drama with Pepper.
Yeah.
Crimson got a point.
Yeah, I'll go back to the whole Rhodey taking the suit thing again. Uh, I'm more towards he was planning on Rhodey taking the mantle. Is that suit has an arc reactor in it? It's not his chest one that he uses. So that one would have to be designed for someone else that isn't Tony to be used, right?
Yeah, this is where it gets muddier because I think from this point on, every suit that he designs has its own arc reactor. So each suit has an arc reactor separate from the one in his chest.
Yes.
If I remember Iron Man 3 Collect 3, when all these suits are flying without him being in it.
Yeah, that's true with those the remote controlled ones because they would need a power source without him in it. Uh, so I guess in this one, I think it kind of leans to that one's tailored for
Rhodey specifically.
Rhodey. Yeah, because he doesn't have any like drone suits yet,
No.
Yeah.
or any like self-piloting suits, nothing like that. And Rhodey fit in it as well. I did look up their heights in real life to see if they're close enough to where he
Don
could just step
Cheadle
into
is not a
Tony's.
tall guy.
He was 1 inch shorter than Robert Downey Jr. It's a believable height difference, I guess.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And I think for an introduction to Don Cheadle as a replacement, I don't like it. So
The
certainly,
intro scene,
certainly subjectively. In general, just through this movie.
Like, you're a more Terrence Howard guy. At least
I am.
you were for Iron Man 1.
And we talked about slightly in Iron Man 1 about how this is definitely a different Rhodey than the Terrence Howard one. And
yeah, I mean the difference to me is plain in both how their approach to the character and also the script writing for the character. Because the Terrence Howard character comes off more of a I'm gonna use Maverick. He comes off a bit more as of a Maverick character. Like he's still willing to give Tony shit over like on the phone while he's flying back from Glomira. Whereas this Rhodey is a lot more dutiful to being a United States serviceman and pilot. And that's kind of where I guess I would draw the distinction between the two interpretations of Rhodey. And as far as their approach to the characters, obviously Don Cheadle's a lot more subdued.
Yeah, the thing I don't like about this Rhodey is I feel like he's just disrespectful and very full of himself to where it's past, I think, just confidence in yourself. I feel like every opportunity he has with Tony, he disrespects Tony. Like, okay, at 1, he steals Tony's suit. It's not just he used it to subdue Tony. He steals it and gives it to the government. That was not his mission to go there. It was not to go steal Tony's suit. That was his own choice.
I could argue that that's Tony provoking him, though. That's not necessarily him being disrespectful on his own. That was provoked by Tony's actions.
That's a choice.
It's still a choice. It's provoked.
Even though he's like shocked the government wants to weaponize it, which was just a dumb reaction on his part. He should know that that's going to have some big dominoes happening.
I have some very different interpretations on that scene then, because I interpreted that scene as not that he's shocked the government wants to weaponize it. He's pushing back against them being on display at the Stark Expo. I read that as more he's shocked that they're pushing this to be done at the expo, not necessarily that they're going to arm it.
No, I didn't read it that way at all. How did you read that, Strix?
Read the reason why Rhodey took it?
No, his reaction to the government weaponizing, or I guess using it as a showcase at the expo.
He wants it to be a part of Justin Hammer's presentation, and that's what shocked him. Like I said, I have my read of that was way different from what Crimson says.
I just didn't think he thought that they would give it over to Hammer, and that's what shocked. I thought he would use it. I thought Rhodey would be giving it to the government for the government's use, and not to go through a different distributor, weapon manufacturer, to be attached to it. That's the shock I see. The Expo thing, I didn't see much. That's just a caveat to go off of Justin Hammer's usage. Nope, there I go. I said it again.
Yeah, it works.
Let's see. So yeah, I'm still going to stick with the initial point of him just taking the suit. I think is much, and they kind of played off as jokey at the end when they're on the roof, and he just takes the suit anyways when Tony said no. They play it off as jokey, but he does just blatantly not listen to him at all.
No, he listens. He just says I wasn't asking for permission.
So his car got destroyed.
He's full of himself. Public transportation. Tony can call him a cab. I don't think stealing the suit is the natural
Okay, well,
course.
again, if we've already agreed that Tony was going to give him the suit anyway, I don't see why Tony would push so hard on that.
Where does it say that he's going to give him the suit anyway?
No,
Not explicit anywhere.
it's
We're
not
we're tr-
explicit.
connecting the dots.
Yeah,
But the shoot, I lost the train of thought I was going to use to counter that.
my apologies.
No, that's all right. Yeah, that totally poofed. Colin. Wow, that stinks.
uh, okay. Yeah, I'm not getting much of, I guess, your interpretation of Rhodey in this film. I guess we have a very, very. I mean, like I said, I'm more passive on the Terrence Howard to John Cheadle exchange, and I do agree they are different characters, but I don't get the smug arrogance that you're looking for. I guess is the overall character trait you see in Rhodey. I get uh, a much more dutiful version of Rhodey, and he does push back on Stark's things, against Stark, particularly obviously during the birthday where he takes the suit. But I view that as, while it is his choice, I view that as explicitly provoked by Tony Stark, because that it's a hard line to walk, I guess, when it comes to that particular choice that Rhodey makes.
So how does the provocation cause him to think take suit? What does that mean?
The provocation.
Yeah, that's the proper word.
Well, at that point, he realizes that Iron Man's not being responsible because the whole concept that Iron Man is the privatized world peace. He's the stabilizing agent, and how the rest of the world is. Tony was on the phone saying yes, and Iron Man will be back on watch in the next 24 hours. He's guaranteeing that to his military supervisor, and he realizes that Tony Stark doesn't give a shit about that. Like that's kind of the final straw for him because he even says, like, I just stuck my neck out for this guy, having talked to his superiors, trying to talk them out of rolling up tanks down the PCH to pull his suits away. So I view that as the final straw, seeing him treat his responsibility being Iron Man so casually when he starts shooting glass into a crowd, which is arguably dangerous, and I don't think they portray that enough, but that's plot armor for the crowd. So I view that in the long string of like Tony being just kind of, it's just the final straw for Rhodey is how I view that. And he realizes that if Tony's not going to do it, someone needs to, because this is still our nuclear deterrent, as Tony points out in the meeting with the senator.
But at its core, it didn't solve the issue he went there to fix, which was Tony. He just stole a
Well,
suit and
yeah,
left. Tony still has a suit. Tony's still, I guess, AWOL, not AWOL, whatever, loose, right?
yeah.
Doesn't really solve anything that he was there for.
Well, it solves the government rolling up tanks because they now have access to a suit.
Their issue was that a private person also had it, though. So why would they still permit him using it?
No, so that doesn't disqualify the issue. It's to pacify his higher ups from taking Tony's suits, given that they now have their own suit. And yes, that is their issue. It is a privatized thing, but it also he views it as might be viewed as a compromise between those things. So uh, I guess we're kind of moving away from the being provoked to take the suit bit away, but I can see plenty of reasoning and still why he would take the suit, even if it's provocation.
What do you think, Sprakes?
Crimson, I'm on your side.
I've gone back and forth.
No, I'm on your side. I don't. I think it's too far and too rude of a thing to do. It's like saying if we got in a scuffle at your house and we got in an argument and I thought best thing to do was leave, I'm not taking your car. That's rude. That's over the top.
Right, but if the car was the key to protecting the world, and I'm too drunk to drive it,
Then I'm
and
going to
too
take the
responsibly.
keys. You take the arc reactor out. I'm not going to take your car and sell it to someone.
I could buy the arc reactor argument if you took the arc reactor. I'd be
Just
totally
take
cool
it
with
so
that
you
too.
can't use it. You still have your suits. It still belongs to him. You just power him down.
The issue with Tony is he's just gonna.
Rhodey
The
knows
issue
the
with
way
Tony's.
because of Jarvis. Tell Jarvis to turn it down. Because Jarvis's best intention is also to look out for Stark, and Stark argues against Jarvis.
Yeah, but I can see Tony Stark circumventing Jarvis. That would not be a solution.
Yeah, drunk Tony would just think, all right, Jarvis, knock it off. Because at this point, Jarvis isn't artificial intelligence yet.
Would it be worse of Rhodey to take the additional palladium chest rather than take a suit?
So I guess the issue I would take with that is, I guess it depends on the necessity of the palladium poisoning or how much he knows. Because this is after the sequence. This is after the scene where he has it. That you have this in your chest, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was
Um,
before it.
I'm
I mean,
saying if he's
he
trying to
knows
hurt,
it doesn't look good for
he's trying to
him.
hurt Tony. He's not trying to benefit anything else. Well, other
in
way
your
around. He's trying to
version,
save Tony. Sorry, yeah.
yeah.
But if that's a way to kind of like shake him out of his stupor, I guess.
Yeah, it's like that gets into like blackmail. I'm holding your life in my
Well,
hands
he
right
doesn't
now.
know. He doesn't know it's threatening his life yet. That he does. He's not aware of that. He's just aware of that's what powers the arc reactor.
Well,
So
he sees something up with his neck and sees a clear deflection, and I think Rhodey's smart enough to deduce that something's off.
Yeah, okay, I could buy that. Uh, so he might have an idea, but that still doesn't necessarily mean it's clearly tied to his life right now.
True. I'm just on the side. Take the
So,
keys, not the car.
yeah, I don't know what could constitute as the keys other than the arc reactor. And for him, he could take the arc reactor out of each suit, but that doesn't take the arc reactor out of Tony's chest, which keeps him alive. So I like that idea in concept. I'm not sure how far he could take that though.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just to get the plot moving so Hammer can get in control, which then Whiplash can get in control of War Machine.
Yeah. As a compromise on this Crimson, I think the farthest that you've pushed me is that I think it needs to be more explicit for Rhodey's reasonings behind his actions. I can infer lots of reasons why he would take the suit, but none of them are explicit. Or none of them are explicit enough for to be easy explanations. I don't necessarily view him as being a smug asshole, though. I'm still not moved on that.
All right. Then yeah, I mean, I agree with the initial part of you saying that they just didn't concisely give his reason.
Yeah, like I said, I can infer plenty. Don't have enough for that, and I, we might circle back to this topic later on. But any other final thoughts on this before we move on?
None for me.
Uh, I still like the silver suit.
Yeah, Serval Suit's pretty cool.
Oh, the Mark
I
II.
guess that'll go. Yeah, I guess that'll jump right into what do we think of the? I guess the War Machine's design.
It's cool. It's clunky and it's supposed to be clunky.
Yeah, it definitely feels Justin Hammery. uh, what about you, Crimson? Are you sad
Well,
to see
you know,
Mark II go
no,
into War Machine, or
no. I mean, I don't love the suit, but I like it. Tony has better stuff.
I like the War Machine
Eventually.
suit more than the silver red one at the Grand Prix.
The
yeah,
briefcase one.
Yeah. I
yeah,
just think it's an
I
ugly
would.
design. The mask is the only thing I think saving it, but I just don't like the ripple effect of the silver. And
Yeah, I mean that's comic accurate to the one he fought Whiplash in, though, right? Obviously with its own interpretation on it, but I remember the ones some in some animated shows and also a comic. That's kind of what the ripples are kind of a homage to the silver instead of the gold that takes place in that suit. Uh, But also, I agree, Springs. It's still my least favorite suit design, though I will say I still love the suit up sequence. It's still pretty cool for me, anyway.
Yes.
Um,
Trying to find it.
I yeah. I will jump to um the palladium poisoning. I think this is a slight world building problem. Um, there was no indication that palladium was the core of the arc reactor in Iron Man 1. We just know it was a piece of the arc reactor. So it's interesting to kind of see them take a I guess the only thing that was mentioned when building the arc reactor 1 and turn this in and turn it into something extremely plot relevant in Iron Man 2. I like that they're using something we recognize. I don't think we had enough understanding of it though from Iron Man 1 for it to be this relevant in Iron Man 2. So it's a kind of a world building nitpick for me.
Gotcha. Sorry, I was looking up
Uh,
the suit. It says Mark 5, but I guess it's an MCU Mark 5 and not the comics Mark 5.
yeah, I don't think it's the comics Mark 5, but I do recall Tony does get a suit that looks like this when he fights Whiplash in either one of the comics or one of the
Okay.
animated shows. That's kind of also how I view it. But again, I'm still in agreement. It's probably still my least favorite design suit so far. I think there's probably suits I despise in Iron Man 3 comparatively, but they're such minor like background character suits that it's not as bad.
Whatever the hell the bumblebee looking one is. The
The
static
Bumblebee looking one.
hazard tape one.
Yeah. There's some they were throwing stuff at the wall for Iron Man 3.
Well, no, those are
I
real
do like
suits, but they're just ugly.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I there are real suits, but I agree. Some of them I recognize, some of them I don't, like the deep space suit and stuff like that. Uh, yeah. Uh, Sprinks, you got a point you want to jump to?
Yes, and overarching, I think one of the most detrimental things to the movie, Whiplash is the big bad villain, I think more so than Justin Hammer of the film. I wish he had a backstory to give me a care as to his character. His
Yeah, the
dad dying at the
closest.
beginning, saying that should be you on the TV. There is nothing proving why it should be him.
Yeah, the only thing that backs that it's proven that it should be him is that he has all of the intelligence of Tony Stark, just not the resources. That's kind of the implication.
Yes, but we don't
Um,
see that prior. We don't see his accomplishments of what he's achieved for his dad to tell him that, other than his dad worked with Howard Stark. But
yeah.
that's more of his dad
So
than Ivan.
yeah, well, I mean, he builds this miniaturized arc reactor. Um,
Cool, he's smart, and he does that after his dad dies.
yeah, I know. So I guess your point is you wanted more agency from him on designing something unique.
Yeah, kind of seeing like how Ivan grew up to do the things like Tony has done, but in Moscow or wherever, and to achieve things
Yeah,
that he's done, but
it.
it's overlooked because of broadcast onto Tony and how charismatic he is, kind of thing.
Well, it's access to resources. That's the big thing. So I can see what you're saying. I'm not sure what he could do with his limited resources. It would be nice to. It would be interesting to see if he had like something in the background while he's working on the new arc reactor, his version of the miniaturized arc reactor. But I'm not sure how to walk that line of, oh, he's just as smart as Tony, but just lacks resources. He could have something in the background there in the opening sequence, as far
Yes,
as his own agency and intelligence.
he
But
doesn't need something as big as a suit to be on par with Tony, but just to show to the audience things he has done priorly to explain why his dad would say that.
yeah, okay.
It just doesn't give me a care to Whiplash that much, other than,
Uh,
oh, he's intelligent.
oh
Which
well,
then
okay.
again,
That's
later he
see
proves
for
that
me
he
that's
isn't.
different. For me, that's a difference in distinction. Um, Making you care about the villain versus expanding out the villain's backstory.
Oh, I think
Because
expanding the
those
backstory would give more of a care.
that no that see those aren't necessarily the same thing though. There's a separation in that. They would work better obviously together, but I make a distinction I guess between those two. Um, it's yeah I don't know what I would do to make Ivan more sympathetic other than probably have more of an interaction between him and Tony Stark beyond the one prison sequence and the highway sequence and focus so like this would change the movie entirely but have more back and forth between them. Like, what if Tony Stark tries to make that apology to him at any point in the film? Like, once he realizes, oh, he is directly tied to what my father did on the arc reactor. Therefore, it's tied to what saved my life.
That would be
So,
something.
if they had done something like that, I think I would probably like him more as well. But implementing something at the beginning to kind of illustrate his intelligence, I think the arc reactor is enough, as well as him designing his own whiplash suit. I think those are unique enough to him to get the intelligence part across, but the caring part I view as I guess would be more relevant to the uh more interaction with Tony Stark because that would work I think better.
Okay. I just find the beginning of the movie weak.
It's efficient, but yeah, there's not much other than what's explicitly said to go on for Ivan's character mourning the death of his dad.
Yeah, I mean, the beginning of Iron Man 1 is pretty iconic. Good hook to it. With this one, yeah, if this was your first MCU film or first Iron Man film, it's not super strong.
It would make me
Yeah.
question what did Whiplash do in Iron Man 1?
I mean, he was locked up for 15 years, I think is what
I,
Jarvis said.
I don't know. If a film is called Iron Man 2, I don't think it's incumbent upon the audience to need to treat this as an intro to the character. We're getting into
What
territory that I don't think is necessary with that argument.
of setting up Ivan? Or what do you mean?
Well, sorry, maybe I misunderstood. You guys were saying that. Well, Spring said, "Well, it makes me question what he was doing in Iron Man 1."
Yes, if someone's
And I'm like,
introduction to the MCU was Iron Man 2, and this is how they started, I feel like that person would question what was Whiplash doing in the first Iron Man movie.
like
That
during the
gets
events.
that gets harder and harder the more things you add.
Like I
Uh,
said, I'm not sure that's because this is
I'm
called
not.
Iron Man 2. Okay, so
This
no,
is
never
another
mind. I think
confusion. I'm not adding. I'm saying a question one would be in a situation if this was their first.
this
Because
is
what
a
I'm coming from is that this is weak, and there is nothing of Ivan previously to give a care for me.
yeah, like if this was someone's first Iron Man movie, they'd see it and be like, "Oh, is this guy in Iron Man 1?" Right?
Yes.
Um,
It's like, oh,
that's
what
what
did he
you're going with.
do to get his revenge on Tony? Why is
Yeah.
his dad saying that should be him?
well, we know when this takes place in Iron Man 1. They're watching the news broadcast of Iron Man.
Yes.
So the implication, I guess, what would be happening during Iron Man 1 is they're in this squalor situation and his dad is dying and he's taking care of him. That would be the inference.
And to me, that's weak.
Why?
If that's it of a character, to be a bad guy of the movie,
Well, to
Uh,
restore his father's image, I feel like it's a decent motive. It's
it's a
just
fine motive. There's just no backup, no proof.
I don't. All right,
proof.
that
Wait,
might.
what do you mean by proof?
As a, from what I started, what is the examples of what Ivan's been doing throughout his life for his father's dying words to be that should be you on TV? We show proof afterwards, after the death, that he's smart enough to make an arc reactor and make the whips for Whiplash. But what is it in his life he has achieved for that to be a parallel to Tony Stark? Unless it's just the ramblings of his dad wishing that his son was as
Well,
strong as Howard Stark's son.
Well, we can't make them on equal footing by purely just because of the lack of resources that Ivan has.
In
So,
the house he's currently shown in the beginning of this film, yes.
Yeah, most I guess we get with his past is through Nick Fury talking to Tony about how he gave some sort of weapons to somebody and then got arrested for
He was in
15
jail for
years or
15 years, yeah.
something.
no, he's his well the reason he uh well no, okay, that's two different scenes. There's the scene where he's researching Ivan in the car in his basement where Rhodey finds him. And then
Yeah,
there is the sequence where Nick Fury talks about Ivan Vanko wanting to get rich off the arc reactor design, and that's why he was deported. Which shitty reason to be deported, but
for the father, not Ivan.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I
Okay.
guess his toniness, I guess, with what Sprinks is saying, I don't know if I would necessarily compare them as like just comparative, really, because their fathers are similar. I don't know if I would compare them.
Uh question for you, Springs, just to make sure I understand, because I want to rephrase the understanding. Does the issue boil down for you is that you don't have enough information to go on to imagine Ivan's life off screen?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, yeah, no, so that's that for me. That's I agree with that. There is definitely a Ivan is a character here for this film, um, and that is the world building issue when it comes to building franchises and stuff like that. And a lot of other films suffer from that. So I won't push back too hard on that now that I understand that's the point I think you're going for, because that's an extension of like the world continues to exist off the frame of the camera, right?
I guess to go with comparatively to previous, Obadiah Stane, see his motives, see his connections, see his upbringing to get him to Ironmonger. Same with Emil Blonsky, seeing where the bad guy starts from, builds up, gets the goal, achieves. Ivan, it feels like it starts past his start of his arc or villainness. Like I feel like there's a beginning chunk that's completely missed. That's explained later about like, as you said, Crimson, the where he's been in prison, all that, but there's no achieving to it. It's just kind of like dropped like, oh, he's smart because he can make an arc reactor, which is proof to the audience visually.
So, are you more on this concept thinking there's lacking of his buildup of his intelligence or his buildup of his disdain of Stark?
Build up for Disdain Stark. I don't see a build up to intelligence. We see that he can make the arc reactor, he can make the whips, how he takes over the
Yeah,
Sentries and hacks into Hammer's technology. Then again, it's Hammer, but all that. I think his
yeah.
intelligence is fully proven. It's just it feels like the start of a character that doesn't have a build up. And
I
for
see
the
what you
main
mean. So
villain,
the
there
the, the
doesn't seem to
key the
be why care kind of thing.
yeah, the key piece that's missing here for you, Spriggs, I think I've got it now, which it would be that did his father tell him stories constantly about how much Howard Stark screwed him over?
That could aid because then Ivan maybe Ivan didn't do anything, and it's just the constant past that his father's living on from his life being screwed up because of Howard, and then he just constantly wishes a change or wishes that if he was still in the States that Ivan would have achieved what Tony achieved. Kind of, it could be that angle, but again, there's nothing prior to
Okay.
show that.
Um, okay. I think I know what you're angling now for Springs. So my next question, I guess, will be maybe the final question on this is what would you want to see?
I want to
And
see.
how would you incorporate this into the film?
I'd like to see this beginning bit more so be kind of like the beginning of Ant-Man, kind of like the de-age with Howard on the arc reactor, and see Ivan being turned down, and then going, or not Ivan, his father being turned down, and then telling Ivan, you can still achieve things, you can still do things, because then we could do that angle without adding additional 10 minutes of showing either magazine clippings or anything, kind of like how Tony had in the first movie about how he came to be because of Howard. That saves time there. So then just jump cut to then his dad dying, and saying the same kind of things of like, that should be you, because then that would go with the angle that his dad just constantly kept telling him without really showing that Ivan's been achieving actual things in this rundown little place he has with the scraps at his hand. That way it shows his intelligence, but also that his father constantly um, regrets not being what he thought he could give to his son.
Or
I'm
yeah,
not opposed to that concept.
I'm not opposed to that concept either. It would definitely strengthen Whiplash because I guess because I've been on playing a bit of devil's advocate here on the levels of Whiplash. He is one of the more forgettable MCU villains.
Yes.
Yeah.
Overall,
He's
I would say
unfortunately he's
uh
kind of paired a little with like Crossbones, like Rumlow.
At least Crossbones looks
no,
cool.
I would disagree. I think Crossbones has a lot more going for him as far as motivation goes and character buildup goes. He is very briefly on the screen, but they're very efficient with his time.
His time as Crossbones, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
his times as Crossbones specifically, yes. Then I would agree. But I think his character
No,
as it
Rumlow
stands is
throughout Winter Soldier is big, but I just just Crossbones.
yeah.
But
Uh yes. Uh, I would agree with that, and maybe maybe with some of the issues that go into that is the movie being split between Justin Hammer and him being in the villain. That could be one
maybe,
of the
but they
core
have
issues
shared
that's out
screen
there.
time. It's not like one time
Y-
given to the other, which denotes both. They're actually working.
y-
So
Yeah, but I agree with that. But my point in getting to this is that on top of that is I think a lot of it is because their scenes together are played off as comedy, and that's a big issue. They're not character building between the two of them. Like, they don't do enough drawing the distinction of Ivan being more intelligent than Justin Hammer is. Like he could explain how something works to Justin Hammer, and that would show the difference between the two villains, I guess. So the time that we spend with them being on screen together is not often time well spent.
I don't know if I
Well,
fully agree with that.
Ivan shows him his hacking ability now. His software sucks, but I don't think Ivan really grows or changes around Hammer, which might be part of the point you're making. Like I think right out the gate, he's got this view of who Hammer is, and that doesn't change the whole time he's with him. So it doesn't
Yeah,
really feel like there's anything happening between them.
Ivan's not a
Justin
friendly guy.
fl- gets frustrated with him, so he does kind of get some development with him. But Ivan, yeah, he's unchanged the whole time he's with Justin.
yeah. So Whiplash is a very static character. Is kind of where I'm going with this.
The only thing I can
And
give to Ivan is that he's masking his patience before breaking, where he just kills guards and takes over. But he's
yeah,
still not friendly
He
to
got
Hammer.
far enough. Yeah, he got far enough in his building stuff to that jump the gun to kill the guards.
yeah, I have no idea why he calls Tony Stark to advertise, but that's a
Well, if his
plot issue.
father's been raising him on hating Tony his whole life, then the only thing he wants is to satisfy his own validation
Yeah,
to take over Tony
again,
here.
yeah, the best inference with that is just again, it's him playing with his food. But it's, I mean, he could still show up and destroy Stark's legacy without Stark needing to be there, and then that would lure Stark out anyway and give Ivan plenty of time to prepare in the field how to deal with him. But that's a kind of a future-ish problem.
Yeah, which I think falls onto, we keep calling Ivan intelligent. He's tech savvy, tech intelligent. He's not people intelligent. He's not charismatic.
I think he
He's not
manipulates Hammer
charismatic.
enough, but I think he is people intelligent. He's just not charismatic because I do think he manipulates Hammer quite a bit.
I don't know if I call it manipulation. Just getting in his way.
Well, I mean, that's
Hammer's
kind of what
naive enough.
manipulation's about,
Well, I see it more as Hammer's naive enough to believe that what Ivan's doing is achieving what he wants.
because that's what Whiplash is telling him he could do. it's not like a crazy manipulation or anything, but I think it still fits the definition of manipulation. But yes, Justin's also naive and stupid. But desperate, actually, I guess. Desperate.
Yeah, desperate falls more in line.
Crimson. How about you got a point? That was quite a long one.
Sure. So there's this little character called Whiplash that I would like to talk about.
Man, I've never heard of him. Go on.
No, uh, it's not a big talking point, but he gets a passport and a ticket to the Grand Prix. And I was just thinking what the point of the ticket was if he masked himself as an employee or a crew member or something, and how he even got to that position, anyways.
I see it as like a hitman situation. The ticket was able to enter the gate, and then he took out a worker and took the uniform so he could get closer to the track.
Sure, but I feel like that's something we would need to be shown or told.
Yeah, that would be
happened.
help. That would help.
Like if someone's like, someone is missing at the gate or something. I don't know. It doesn't
could
have to
do
be shown
something-
that he infiltrated that way,
Yeah.
but something in the background.
Sorry to compare Iron Man 2 to The Dark Knight, but you could do a background scene situation where you see events actually unfolding, but your attention's on the focus. An example to how Two-Face got into the car to shoot. Who was that character? Or we got into the car to shoot the driver.
Oh, that was like
Oh, yeah,
one of
the
the
police.
um,
Oh yeah, no, that was one of the mob guys, right?
Yeah. I just forget the name of the mob. Anyhow, the background focal point
Salvatore
in the
Maroni.
corner. Oh, that was Maroni? Okay.
Yeah.
The background still shows how he got into the car, but it's not the focal point of the scene. So the same thing could be with Ivan here, where the focal point could be either on Tony or on Hammer, or even maybe Christine if you want, Pepper, anyone. But in the background, you see Ivan actually achieving something. Now, maybe that did happen, and I didn't see it, but I'm leaning that it didn't happen.
I'm also leaning it that didn't happen.
Oh, it didn't happen. I think this film has enough flaws that didn't happen on screen. I don't need to be shown it necessarily, but it would be nice to get something to infer what happened. I mean, because the idea you brought up, Sprinks, of just him getting there, you saw it as a hitman situation. I can infer all that. I don't necessarily need to be shown all of it, but because Ivan is such a, for lack of better words, thin character, I think any bit would help.
Oh, like during the party dining area, wherever they met, I think Elon Musk. Like you could have him in the background following the pit crew guy, and be like, okay, he followed him and took his stuff or something. Like that would be a way to do it. It's the background thing.
Yeah, it's just so we don't introduce him with the song going in the background.
And that way he doesn't need his
our
own
first
shot, his own scene to be played off.
Yeah. We could see him. It would just be a quick intro shot. So like while they're arriving, we can have a shot of, a pit crew guy being pulled off screen or something like that.
If you want to incorporate an own scene, sure.
Yeah.
You
I'm
can
just
do
thinking of
tons of different ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I think any of that would help Whiplash. So
And if I would think that door would be locked or something to just let you walk on the track, but I don't know.
No,
I don't know for sure on that.
those would not be locked. No, that's for emergency situations of pit crews and.
Well, I mean, they would
Yeah.
have somebody with
I would
a
say
key or
EMFs, but
something.
that's not it.
they those
EMPs.
wouldn't be locked. They need quick access for emergencies. So
They're not
I'm fine
exactly-
with those being open. It's just most people would say it would just be a sign saying emergency only,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
They're not necessarily light. They got some heft to them to push open, but they're not locked.
I suppose.
I will jump to minor continuity error. Tony Stark is wearing a different suit on stage than he is off stage after just walking off.
True. Wow, that scene has more than one continuity error.
That's one of the bigger ones,
Yeah.
or one of the minor ones. But go on.
I had that. I marked it 7 minutes. Every cut of Tony on stage, he's in a new position. It's
Lots of takes.
very choppy. It does feel like they had one camera usage and not like 3 cameras to cut between angles.
I mean, I think they hide that enough though, with the shooting between the dancers and then cutting back to Tony Stark.
They try. The detriment to it is later when Hammer gives his presentation at the end of the movie, or closer to the end of the movie. It's very more smooth and seamless between the takes, whereas Tony's here is not.
Yeah, I don't know if I have an issue with that, but yeah, I can see that being a problem. Just because, like I said, for me, they shift the focus enough to where Tony Stark could be in a completely different position each time. I think there was one part where I thought was uh there was a it was bigger as far as a continuity error was concerned because it was like he was blatantly in the shot with the cheerleaders and then in a different position when we cut back.
Yes, but he's facing forward, all of them around him, and then it cuts, and then he's clapping, doing glad to be back, and he's facing the opposite direction or something like that. But
Yeah. Uh, I'd agree with that. Sprinks, you got another point you'd like to jump
I
to
have
or add on?
I have a question. How does, and maybe this is a, if we had Biomon here guessing, he might be able to answer this, but it's because it's a biology thing. How does the vein Tetris grid poisoning work
It doesn't.
on a human body?
It doesn't. I'm happy
Okay.
you asked. It doesn't. Someone who studies biology as well. No, it doesn't work like that.
I'm like, the arc
No, I
reactor,
wrote it down.
the technology isn't throughout under his skin or something like that's.
That is purely a visual design and not practical whatsoever.
Yes, I agree with that.
Oh, good. 'Cause I'm like, they're not nanobites or something in his blood or something. I'm like, I don't know what's causing this.
Yeah, palladium poisoning in the chest. It's obviously a fucking fictional thing, and I don't know why this wasn't a worry for him in the first film, considering if palladium was the centerpiece of the arc reactor core, I have questions. Why didn't the big arc reactor need its core replaced? Or why did
They run on 2 different things. This was the one that he had Pepper exchange versus the other one that's a power or whatever it's running on. That's why he swapped them
battery.
in the first movie. And then this is a 6-month jump from the first movie, so maybe it was a problem, but it just wasn't shown on screen until now.
yeah, like I said, it's kind of a minor world building problem. I know why they chose palladium. I think I've explained this earlier. I don't know if you were here for that, Crimson. But the palladium being the thing that was named in the usage of building the Mark One arc reactor, and they took it to kind of really expand it into this. Uh, which there was no indication that it was supposed to be the core of the arc reactor in the Mark One version.
They should just use adamantium.
Just that it was an important component, but yeah,
Yeah.
not that it was its core component.
And before the nerds attack me, I know it wouldn't work. Okay, I get it. It was a joke.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't use vibranium. It's
Well,
clearly
now
the most
that
versatile substance on
wouldn't
Earth.
work.
Are you sure it's the most versatile
Wouldn't
substance on
corrode.
Earth?
Wouldn't corrode.
It wouldn't corrode,
And
but there's no energy emitting
Tony
off of it.
Tony doesn't know about it. So
That's might be true. I'm not sure about that yet. uh, but yeah. Uh, Crimson point.
sure. So Tony makes a new element, and I like the idea of it being a thing. It's just the implementation isn't amazing. Like the idea of it being the map is cool. I'm fine with that. I think Howard should have left better clues to connect the dots.
Yeah, it's a
But I like
little.
the idea of it,
Yeah,
and the part that kind of took me away from it is what does it mean? What's the map to? Because all it ends up doing is like take out trees, sidewalks, street lamps, all that. It's like, all right, combine the buildings or whatever, and then it just turns to a bunch of dots in a circle.
Yes.
Okay, so
So
it's not really a map. It's
I
just
liked the first
random.
half of that scene, but once that part happens, it kind of jumped the shark for me because I can see what Tony Stark was looking at because I'm familiar with looking at atoms and their nucleus and how electrons rotate around it as they're identifying elements because
Yeah,
I
with the
took organic
Earth,
chemistry,
the
but
globe thing, that made sense.
yeah, so like that part was actually really cool because I'm like, okay, that's neat detail. You're very weird for building an entire fucking scientific amusement park around this concept, but it works in quotes. But yeah, I think the part where it jumps the shark is making everything combine into one because I think they had a good basis already with that, but making everything combine into like a into forming the structure of the nucleus. It's like I'm not sure how Howard visualized this within the context of this film. I know retroactively he's working on this because it's related to the Tesseract, but
Mm. And the because an element is just an atom with an X amount of electrons attached to it. So
yes,
in large. So this would just have another electron based on we don't know how many electrons compared to whatever last element they have, but it does. I don't understand what the map's really representing because I
well,
thought it would lay out the shape of it, I guess, but it
it
just throws a bunch of random
did.
circles onto the sphere.
Yeah, it did at first. I'm like, okay, I can sort
Yeah,
of
first.
see like the gravitational pull of the electrons being mapped out with this. But after again, once it combines everything into the singular sphere, that's when I get lost because that's more for like hologram scientific showcasey like stuff rather than it being more grounded.
Yeah,
Any
Sprinks.
thoughts on that, Springs?
Yeah,
Uh, I'm not a big sciencey molecule guy like the two of you are. What I got out of it was how it's really cool how it's like Epcot and Walt Disney related of Howard Stark and how it's like the future of tomorrow look and how the pavilion made it as a map key, and I thought that was a cool tie-in kind of thing.
yeah, I get those vibes certainly.
Yeah. Like I said, I think that's their intention. I think they do mostly okay with it. I don't have large issues with it, with outside the nitpicks that Crimson's have already laid out. Um, I do this watching this made me wish that the Stark Expo was real though. That would be cool for like every like the Olympics every 4 years. We have just this big amusement cart dedicated to invention and science. That'd be really legit. I'd love that.
There's something somewhat like that. You probably won't fully like it though.
E3.
D23's Tomorrowland announcements.
Well, it's not really like a tech conference or
I don't know.
anything.
They just really, I mean, at the time of recording, that new Walt Disney animatronic was made. Looks pretty good.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. The only animatronics I've seen recently is the Universal Portal stuff, or whatever.
Oh, Epic Universe stuff?
Yeah, Epic Universe with like Frankenstein and all that.
Yeah, those look pretty good too.
Yeah. Uh, I will jump to I guess one of my favorite exchanges in the film when Stark is trying to apologize to Pepper and just can't get the words out. But I like that he cracks a joke. I lost both kids in the divorce, and then he looks back at Happy, and Happy just shakes his head because even though he's not Happy's boss anymore, I like that Happy is still like giving him like in the moment read the room advice.
Yeah,
Just a tiny little nugget that I
well, they're still
really appreciated.
friends.
Oh yeah, exactly. There's just a tiny little nugget that I really appreciated. Like that Happy is still helping out his old boss a little bit with the reading the room advice.
Yeah, trying to completely lose the kids,
No.
as he put it.
And he's still trying with the strawberries. He knew there was a correlation. So he's been trying. And then the omelet on
Yeah.
the plane took him 3 hours to make, maybe, but
That was funny. It implies that Tony Stark was just trying so hard. So, like, again, I appreciate the efforts he's making. There's a lot of little character bits in here that I like because we've been going in pretty hard. So I'm gonna just jump to rapid fire a few bits out that I did think were okay as we go along here. Sprigs.
Um, there's after the conference the presentation at the beginning, there's a walking point of view shot from like Tony's angle saying hi to everyone.
Oh yeah, when he's greeting everybody
Yeah,
on their
it's
way out.
a little bit of a weird take to go with, but it's I think passable. But it brings up the thing I brought up in Iron Man 1 with the Stan Lee cameo. Is Stan Lee in this, or Stan Lee playing Larry King?
Uh, kind of the same answer as the first one. Um, I don't remember what we ended up saying on
Because
the
the
other
first
one.
one was
If
Hugh
it was just Hugh
Hefner. It's like,
Hefner.
did he just call him Hugh Hef, or just call him
He
Hef
said he
because he looked like
he
it,
said
or
you
was he
look
actually
great, half. Yeah.
playing Hugh Hefner?
I think it's Stanley playing these people.
Okay.
Like they're in the universe. And then they have Elon Musk there.
That's a cameo that
It's
did not age well.
it's such a weird one. I mean, he's a tech guy, so Tony Stark being a tech guy, I guess that would make sense of a cameo, but still kind of
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah, it didn't age well, but I understand why it was here back in the day. Crimson, was that your point, or would you like to jump to something else?
Sure, I can jump to something else. I'm curious what Whiplash's plans were to kill Tony on the ending. No, not the races. Because I would think he would know his uh drones wouldn't really do anything to him. They're more for the mass casualties and destruction of the event. But it leads me to think of why didn't he arrive earlier?
When he
Because
had the drones as backup.
yeah, because he ends up leaving. Uh, I guess it's to build up the intensity of, oh, will Black Widow get to him in time? But in reality, I don't know why he wouldn't have left sooner, because he obviously doesn't need to control the drones past just doing whatever he did.
Yeah, I think he is controlling them in the hopes that it works, but there's a point obviously where he needs to suit up and leave, and then that's when he kind of autopilots them all to where Tony and Rhodey are in the globe or their little park.
And it was nice for them all just to stand there and wait for the last one to arrive before starting to shoot them.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, it's not quite clear of all of that. It's definitely a movie moment. Uh, I will jump to another bit I like is even when Stark and Rhodey are fighting each other. Um, I kind of want to. I'm kind of curious what your reading on this is. When Rhodey's trying to take the suit and stuff like that, Rhodey makes everybody leave the party, and then when the fighting gets closer to the crowd outside the house, Stark yells at them to kind of scare them off. My reading of that was different because obviously we don't see anything from Stark's POV, but I read that as Stark clearing getting them away further in case the fighting gets more dangerous again.
The
Mm,
yell?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
I'm kind of on that where I don't think he's cognizant enough to really care about the people right now.
He just
I think
sees a
that's
bunch
just
of
him
phones at him in
unleashing
bad
them.
lighting. So he's screaming.
Oh well, I wouldn't go with that, but I don't think he's there
Yeah.
screaming to
That's
scare them for
strangely
safety
enough that
purposes.
strangely enough that's only an interpretation I got this time because I think I was with you guys on my other watch throughs of the film and you guys could probably easily talk me back into that being the primary takeaway. But if I'm going to carry through the logic of Tony Stark letting Rhodey take his suit with what we've kind of inferred already, I think I'm okay with him being cognizant enough to not want civilian casualties, incidentally.
I mean, if
doesn't
he
want them
really
to include their
cared,
collateral.
he would have just flown out of the house, and then they could fight outside or something. And that would be way safer.
That's true. Just an
Uh,
easy try to catch up and flies off.
yeah, that would. I think. See, the problem with that would take away from the wanting to show the monster, quote unquote, Iron Man. Because I call it the monster because we don't see his expression at all in that scene. We only see what he sees through the faceplate.
Depending on where they landed the
Sure.
fight, but it would also add to show how Rhodey is able to fly with it, where Tony could make a comment about it. Or Rhodey himself saying, I got more practice than you think I have under the belt or something, and
Yeah,
catches up and
that would be
catches up.
better. I'm not saying that this wouldn't work. I'm saying that would be better. I'm saying I guess my interpretation of the scene is now only different because uh he's not. I don't know. I'm not convinced that he isn't cognizant enough to chase the civilians away.
I don't know. It's just if we're going with the angle that he is actually really caring about the people, I just don't know why he would to go that route instead of the flyaway thing. Like I said,
It doesn't seem like Tony's personality at all. In order to
Yeah,
save
I mean
civilians, is to
he's
yell at them.
crashing out. I think that's totally valid if he's crashing out.
I don't know. That's not where I stand
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah, like I said, I'm primarily I've been viewing it with that lens that you guys are. I just for this reason this time around watching it with the I guess more an objective lens, I saw that as another potential interpretation.
yeah,
So it's
certainly
not
a potential.
it's not yeah, it's not the one I'm 100% on, but it's like it's an interesting potential one to have because it's not necessarily I don't view it necessarily as out of character for Tony Stark to do that, especially going forward with his primary concern always being on civilians. Uh, and even in Iron Man 1, that's kind of demonstrated as well with him trying to save the family in the car. But you obviously he's not super drunk and crashing out at that point. But I think there's always a little bit in him now that would prioritize people's safety. Because obviously in the first part where Rhodey's evacuating everybody, he assumes they would have kept going so he can have his slug match or whatever over it. But once he sees that people are still there, I think it's within his character, regardless, to chase them off or yell at them to make them go away further for their safety. I don't necessarily view that as out of character with what's going on.
I guess on the topic of character, kind of changing a little bit. What was Black Widow's motive with answering his question about the last birthday thing?
Like, what would you do on your last birthday? Just do anything you
Yeah,
want?
because she knows he's sick. She knows his type of character. So I'm curious what her goal was. Answering, I would do whatever I want with who I want. Obviously, that transpired into him just getting drunk and going crazy.
I think giving
But
a safe
I
answer.
don't know what her intent was. I
Giving
don't
a
know if
safe
that's a
answer.
safe answer.
A safe answer that doesn't lean one way or another. It's do what's on your mind. And I don't think she's in position to control Tony. She can advise, and I think her advice was safe.
I feel like the safe answer would just be like, be with those you love or something.
My only
That seems the
issue
safest answer.
my issue with
Going
the
that route.
follow up to that is when Pepper and her have a conversation while Stark is dancing in the suit, and she's like, "I need to deal with this right now," and then she's like, "Of course, Miss Potts," and uh, so maybe I I'm not sure what else you would say to someone as a comfort other than that. Uh, it would be interesting to get more insight as to what Black Widow thought about the scene, but I don't necessarily need that because it's, as Spring said, a pretty safe and seemingly comforting answer.
I'm just reading too much into it because I feel like Natasha always has reasons behind everything she says, and she's a spy.
Yeah.
So it just seemed weird, especially how she was saying it kind of like in a seductive manner and stuff. It feels like she's trying to manipulate him in some way.
Yes, and that ties into potentially a deleted scene where she's wearing one of the Iron Man gauntlets and shooting it.
Interesting.
Um, it still works as a bit of seductiveness, but it also because obviously we kind of get a hint at them having a conflict where Potts is yelling at her, "Oh, I'm on to you," and then they crash through the ceiling into interrupting that conversation. So there's an implication of them butting heads, but that's so seemingly so underdeveloped in the story. I'm not sure how that would tie into Black Widow's motive.
Mhm.
If it's an assessment on the character of Tony for why quote unquote Natalie Natasha Romanoff is here to investigate him by being under Pepper and all that, and to get more of a read on his profile so she can make a uh, document on him to give to Nick about whether or not he should be incorporated into the Avengers Initiative, I think a safe answer to go with to get more of a read of what his decision of his own mind to do in a situation where he has every choice of his own to choose from would give more of an example of reading for her without her leaning either a positive or negative light upon him that she could regret later because of her own action.
And I guess in a broad sense, because I feel like at this point she kind of has him pegged, at least his personality. I don't know if necessarily giving this answer to see what he would answer with himself would necessarily be
This
required.
this scene and moment seems much different than the rest of Tony because he's usually playing off of others or acting around group scenarios. This is very much individualized between Natasha and Tony, and maybe it's a situation she's not normally in. I mean, it doesn't seem to be. It seems to be the first one-on-one they have, at least screen-wise. So a situation where it's more calming, or as you said, sounded a little more seductive in tone, seems to be more fitting of a change for her to learn what Tony would do when it's not around Pepper, or how he would act with her, or with Rhodey, or Happy, or anyone else in a situation where he wants Natasha's advice on something.
Sure, and I prefer if they dived into that even more, because kind of just then goes to the party, not really any more one on one with her from that interaction there.
Yeah. Like, so there's a lot of, I guess, stuff in here that I think I would like to be expanded on, but that being one of them is the level of how much Romanov is spying on him and how her manipulations would work and how they wouldn't and stuff like that.
Well, I think we'd all prefer if the script was done before they started shooting.
I'd prefer that with most things, yeah. As it turns out, years of work of prep time is really good for whatever your project you're working on.
Hmm.
I will jump to um, one of the stronger scenes with Rhodey, I think, is when he helps after Tony's learned about Vanko and in like he's sitting in the car watching the history of everything. Is Rhodey helping him replace the palladium chest? Uh, if you get somewhat of a sense of history between the two characters that I think is lacking overall in the film, outside of like the occasional glance like at the Senate meeting where Rhodey's actually amused instead of frustrated with Stark and the way he is kind of thwarting their the meeting efforts to take the suit away. So I do quite enjoy that particular scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, would be a highlight for Rhodey in this one.
Uh, Crimson Point.
Yes, I can do a point. So something I'm not a big fan of is Tony left his house when Nick Fury had Coulson keep him there.
Yeah, with threatening
uh,
to tase him and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, I mean this is an order from Nick Fury to keep Tony in the house. So the fact that Coulson left, albeit by Nick Fury's orders, um, just seems kind of incompetent, either from Nick Fury or Coulson. somebody dropped the ball by not sending another guard or something.
Well,
They just left him.
he breaks the perimeter before Coulson leaves. That's the joke because Romanov, when she's in the meeting with Pepper, threatens him to be collected because she knows he's not supposed to be out of his house.
Yeah, drive yourself or get a ride. Uh, which goes to the mind of someone's dropping the ball. What?
It'd be
Yeah,
Coulson.
And I don't know why they're doing that.
well, I Coulson is the one that threatens to tase him, but I can buy Tony Stark has ways of getting out of his house without anybody knowing. The problem is that he takes his fucking car.
It just makes Shield incompetence, if not Coulson.
I think it falls onto Coulson.
Yeah, because I
Yeah,
mean, even Nick's like my eyes on you, and then
got my
well,
eye on you.
nothing's on you.
Yes, but by like Coulson being the deliverance of information about Tony.
Yeah, but it's Shield. I'm sure they'd have a GPS tracker on his car, and I mean they've controlled his communications where he couldn't call
Yeah.
anybody.
I'm okay. The tracker on the car bit, I can believe Tony Stark can scan it for that and hack into it. So that's not a huge thing. It would be nice that we could see Tony get out, like so there we see him get through the layers of Shield watch keeping an eye on him. That would be cool. Or at least a reference to it. Like when Coulson says, like, I heard you broke your perimeter. I was like, yeah, your tracker sucked. Yeah.
Yeah,
He could say
and he
something
referenced
to that
him
effect.
getting away because right now it just shows
He got away.
incompetence. Yeah, it's just
Yeah, I can agree with that. So like when him replying to Coulson as soon as he walks in the room and saying something, yeah, the tracker was easy to get through, or like it was easy to hack into. Like so something quick, and then you can move right along and the scene can play it like as it normally does. I think that would be an easy fix. Just to imply that there is a level of competence that they just can't deal with Tony Stark being Tony Stark.
yeah.
Sprinks got a point.
Yes, actually, to go back before I do to a previous thing Crimson brought up about why Ivan didn't fly off immediately after having the drones initiated. I do think each section of the drones, the Navy, the Army, the Marines, all had different directives that had to be controlled manually on targeting. And it wasn't until they were all focal pointed to go to attack Tony that he was then able to leave, because then all their goal was on the one target. Such as like the Navy ones coming out of the expo to shoot at civilians, or the Army ones to take their strikes upon Tony flying around. I think their directions all had to be manually inputted before finalized. That's how I kind of read into it. Saw
Trying
it.
to think of the timeline. Did Ivan leave by the time the drones went back to the civilians after chasing Tony and War Machine through the parking
I
structure?
believe he left after that. It's not exactly
After.
100% when he left, but upon Tony and Rhodey being in the park and having their little talk before all the drones come one by one and attacking in the park, I think by that time Ivan's left.
Oh yeah, he would need travel time.
Yeah.
To
Well,
get there.
yeah, we know he's left before that because Romanov's in the room trying to reboot Rhodey's suit.
Yeah, and Pepper and Tony are having the three-way conversation, which I don't know how Pepper got involved in that conversation, but
Yeah. Best faith scenario is that Romanov included her because she's the one that's coordinating with the police right now to arrest Hammer and also help out with the situation.
yes, but Romanoff would also need the IP address or whatever to the computer on Hammer's table at the back of the expo in order to get into that webcam. So unless she was being very thorough in memorization upon putting Hammer down on the table to get information of where Ivan is and was taken in the environment as well, that seems a little too much for Romanoff. Because it's not on
Sometimes
Pepper's
too
phone.
much for her is rebooting War Machine.
Yeah,
I
that
found
to me, I
that
think where the line
absurd.
crossed the line. Well, I'm happy Rhodey gets his suit back or whatever to help out with the fight because it looks cool, but I think they needed to justify Romanov being better at uh,
Hacking.
software.
Because
Yeah,
you got Justin Hammer's security, which he's a military contractor. He has to have good stuff, even though Ivan made a joke of it. Just Ivan's that good. So Ivan's even better than the military contractor software. And now we have to think Natasha's even better than Ivan, which is too much for me. I know she's skilled, but I think it's too wide of a net.
Yes, I don't think it's super far the difference between Ivan and Natasha, but it is very gray. So anyway, a point
Yeah.
I'll go.
No,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
Okay, a point I'll go to though. Maybe I was a little scuffled with it in the first film because I thought it was big, but I guess it wasn't fully established in the first movie, so it's fine. But it's definitely established now that Tony doesn't like to be handed things.
Yes. Going forward, this will be a character trait now. Because they do establish it firmly in this film.
Yes, I
He
just thought it
says
was
it.
pretty big, but
Yeah. Yeah. I can't tell if it's strangers or if it's just people in general.
it's people in general. Doesn't like to be
Okay,
handed
then
anything.
okay.
It does come back up in Avengers. He still doesn't like it in that either.
Yeah. That's gonna be that'll be a consistency issue going forward if that's because I think now it's formally established in this one. I'm trying to think in this film if he was handed things in particular that would work to kind of go around that and see how well they
There's
justify it.
there's one person moving forward to my knowledge that he does accept something handed to him, which impacts the scene a lot. But that's not for
Oh, I'm right.
way down the line. The
Oh,
line.
no, not in this one.
No. It's not till Endgame.
Yeah.
Well, I know what you're saying for that one.
We'll see going forward. I don't have anything I recall specifically else in this film other than that. Because it's reinforced twice in this film with this purchasing of the strawberries and also being handed the subpoena to in order to be appear before the Senate hearing.
Yeah. Also, crazy to see Kate Mara in this movie. Wow. What a role for her.
Kate Mara?
I had no idea who that is.
All right. She gives the subpoena to Tony. She plays Sue Storm and Fan Four Stick.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, that
Then
is
yeah.
kind of a weird thing. Yeah. Yeah. She's also in Zoom,
She's also in Zoom.
but she's not the invisible person in that movie.
No, that's a very Crimson thing to say.
Does Rhodey give the palladium to him? I'm trying to remember the scene.
To who?
with in
To
the
Tony.
scene of she does give him a no Stark. I
Because
don't
Rhodey
remember.
does have it in his hands, and Tony's
He has the
swapping
old
it
one.
out.
Maybe.
Maybe. Maybe is the best I can get for you.
Okay. And Pepper also hands him the microphone when he's drinking. That one I know for sure.
Yeah, he does hand Tony Stark his arc reactor back. I know that because there's a point in the scene where Rhodey's the one holding on to the arc reactor. Which again would be fitting that Rhodey and Pepper would be able to hand him stuff because they're like the people he loves the most in the world right now.
Yes. I'm not saying it's an impossible. Like it's not a big no slap to the face. It's just like he doesn't like it.
Yeah.
That's kind of how you were treating it in the first movie.
Yeah, like I said, I think
Sorry, I went a little more one-sided because I thought it was very much the two of you sounded like, oh, that's not a thing at all. I've never heard of that kind of thing, and went, oh, that I thought that was big in the MCU.
yeah. I think it is now that I'm seeing it more explicit in Iron Man 2, I do think it's a thing, but I don't think it applies to everyone.
Could be. I'm no expert on it.
I quite I don't know if I like this necessarily, but is it a continuity error that Pepper and Stark walk by Dummy, and then he like promotes her to CEO, and then Dummy returns into the scene with champagne like immediately afterwards.
The timing, sure, it doesn't line up. Maybe a teleportation. Dummy having champagne available, no.
Yeah, I think Dummy. The only hint that in defense I have of Dummy just having it ready to go is that Stark says, "I've been thinking about this for a while, actually."
And Dummy could have been prepped. Dummy usually likes to jump the gun sometimes on Stark.
Yeah,
So, and Tony could have prepped beforehand. Pepper could have been a couple things. I think Dummy
yeah,
is set up enough that it's feasible. But Dummy getting to that position and having everything available without making any noise in the background, that's the
yeah,
jumpy bit.
yeah. I can imagine Stark prepping it. He just didn't. He just wasn't 100% sure until this conversation. Maybe. All right, that's fair. Crimson got a point.
Yeah, let's talk about. I guess Justin Hammer a little bit more specifically his presentation. I think it was a solid presentation. Uh, the crowd was not giving him anything to work with, really.
Yeah,
That was
It's for the
good
movie's
humor.
sake that the crowd is dead, but
Yeah.
yeah,
realistically, I do think they'd be a bit more animated with the showcase that was presented. Um, it would be cool to see a drone military army. Um, but hey, Justin's a loser, so they kept that continuity going, I guess.
It's just funny his little feeble claps he gets back, and then upon Tony arriving, it's a big crowd cheer.
Oh yeah, it's a stark
but
difference.
but I do think he does. What's it called? I do think Justin Hammer gets his cheers and stuff once Rhodey is on display and it shows the hammer drone off. I do think he gets his cheers, but obviously nothing compared to the Iron Man.
Because it's an Iron Man suit.
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a fact I probably should have double checked, but I feel like I heard it and you didn't bring it up brighter. When Pepper is talking to Tony before he promotes her to CEO and they have the whole talk and going around, she is sniffling and sounds like she has a cold the whole scene. I feel like I've heard the fact before that Gwyneth Paltrow was actually sick for that scene and they incorporated it in with improv from Robert Downey talking to her.
I can buy it.
Um, I could buy it. Yeah. One of the big things that I think they took away from Iron Man 1 is they liked a lot of the improv between the two of them because it made the dialogue and relationship feel a lot more natural. So they might have just had a direction to go with the scene and they just incorporated everything else smoothly into it. It feels like that's a part of Jon Favreau's style some of the time, at least within the MCU.
Yeah, does seem to fall under that.
I quite hmm. Where should I jump? I will jump. I guess. What do we think of the Iron Man kid with the mask and the fake repulsor?
You know what? I don't think that kid's going to be relevant ever. I don't even know why you would bring it up.
Yeah, neither do I. It does kind of. It's one of those retcon things that we can watch now with knowledge, and this by itself, obviously, this character isn't important, but it, it's interesting to think about what the retroactivity means later on.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue pretty stupid kid.
Yeah,
You got people screaming, running, explosions going
yeah.
on, and his first thing is to stand there and shoot a toy at a killer
Doesn't
robot.
doesn't scream genius quite yet, but
I'm curious
No.
why is this kid unattended? Where's his aunt and uncle?
Oh, they ran off because they were scared.
yeah. And well, you didn't see, but his uncle got killed by one of the Iron Man bots off screen.
Oh, that's how it
They had
happened.
the hammer drones.
I
For
mean, at this
anyone
point, this could be his parents, and that's how his parents died
for
and gets
anyone
stuck.
unaware, this kid in the movie is retconned to be Peter Parker.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, we won't be big about it, but it's weird to think about, at least in the future wise, what this means. Because right now it's just some random kid that is a huge Iron Man fan.
What does it mean?
Um,
I don't know if it means much.
um, no, for me it means a more interconnected world, which is something Phase 2 of the MCU will suffer a shit ton from. Um, but so I don't mind that this is retconned to be Peter Parker, uh, that much. I just kind of wished, if they were going to do that, I wish they made it more important from here, which is kind of hard, very, very difficult to do because they didn't know they were going to get that far in the MCU.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, like
Sony.
if in Homecoming, he's like, Tony, I'm a huge fan. I remember going to your expo or something, and like
Yeah,
actually grounding it in the movies
yeah.
and not
That
just
that would be the fault of those films because they came after this for not making a reference like that.
yeah.
But what about what was it, Harley? Does everyone like Harley?
Who?
Is that his name? I don't know. The kid from Iron
I,
Man 3.
oh, no
Oh,
idea.
I deleted that kid from my head, to be honest.
I don't know his name. I know who you're talking about.
He was at Stark's funeral.
I know
The
the guy nobody
character, yeah,
recognized,
yeah.
and how they got his contact info, I don't know.
Oh, it's Shield. It's Fury.
Yeah.
And if Tony
Uh,
told them about him, anyways, different movie.
yeah, it's true. What do we think about Ivan's escape from prison?
Tacky.
That's his
Yeah,
second cool guys don't look at explosions moment.
It's a bit sloppy.
I think everything up until he gets out of the prison, outside of his cell, is okay.
The setup
Uh,
is okay.
like
Yeah.
yeah, once because like the slow realization that they both have the same prisoner number and they look vaguely alike, I actually quite like that because they both realize what's going on. And then obviously Ivan wins because he's Ivan. But I am in agreement that once he gets out of the cell, that's when it gets really sloppy. The film is spares itself by having him kind of just teleported to Justin Hammer eating a fancy meal outside of his plane.
There's a cool guard takedown.
That is true. But the fact that the guard doesn't react more strongly is kind of a problem.
Now there's only one guard.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. This is not the start of. Wow, funny enough, this is not the start of Ghost Protocol.
That is very true. The start of Ghost Protocol is pretty strong prison escape, all things considered.
Yeah, this wasn't
Um,
horrific, but it was, as some would say, a bit weak sauce.
just
Some
pouring
would
that
say
weak
that.
sauce all around.
Yeah, I mean, could they have? No, well, they were trying to fake his death. Never mind. I was like, yeah, they could have just dressed him up as a officer and walk him out or something, but they are trying to fake his death. Oh, never mind. But it is
One
kind
of
of
the jokes.
suspicious how the explosive would have gotten there to kill him anyways. So
Yeah,
they
yeah.
never really questioned that.
The C4 is the mashed potatoes. The best I can assume is the guard was paid off because that would get you really far. Um, which I assume that's what happened. Um, I do really like I love Nick Fury in this film. Actually, he's quite a you get a strong sense of who Nick Fury is in this film, which is important because this is, I think, his biggest role up until Avengers.
Most screen time,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and so you have to do a lot with as much as you can with him, and I do like Nick Fury quite a bit in this film. And also the joke, the "I got my eye on you," still lands today for me. I don't mean that die of laughter at it anymore, but I could still hear it like just the awkward silence as Tony Stark reins in the obvious joke he wants to make.
Yeah, I agree. This is a good Nick Fury. I would even call this an introduction, really, because in Iron Man
This
1,
would be
it's not
his
much.
yeah, this is an actual introduction to his character. I like the importance he plays into it, both in the world building as to who Tony Stark is related to Nick Fury because Nick Fury knows his dad, Howard being a founding member. So there's a lot of good interplay at work here for Nick Fury and his relation to Tony Stark and his future relation to Howard Stark and how it's going to connect to the Tesseract and a lot of there's a lot of good groundwork that's laid here for both what the Tesseract is and Howard Stark in the first Avenger, his minor role be as it may.
Yeah, I don't really know if I have much of anything to complain about Nick Fury.
Yeah, he's intelligent. He's got his fingers in everything. He knows who Ivan Vanko is, and it gives him that sense of presence that he's a he would run a security apparatus like Shield.
Without anything else happening in world at this point for Nick Fury to be invested towards, and even with the MCU continuing, nothing overlap this time for him to be invested towards, I think this is totally fine for Nick Fury's focal point to be.
Yes, uh, I'm in agreement with that as
Does
well.
bring up some
So like,
questions later,
um,
or also
well,
it does follow with is the after credits of Hulk in between the time of the beginning of this movie and the 6 months?
um, I know exactly where that's placed, and it's placed while Coulson's in New Mexico.
So it's after Iron Man 2.
Yes,
Okay.
which explains the whole consultant bit. Um, and that's only because I watched the shorts in quote unquote order with Phase One,
Okay.
and then another joke I quite liked since I'm just gonna pile on some stuff I liked, and I liked a lot of Nick Fury's character. But another joke I liked is Happy yelling, "I got him!" After Black Widow went through like 15 guards.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That one also still makes me smile today.
Yeah, yeah, pretty good scene uh, all around. The comedy and the action, it's pretty darn solid. Kind of incompetent guards because a lot of them just get one shot and they just lay on the ground.
Yeah, that is my only complaint with the fight scene. I do like Romanov's fighting style. She uses a bunch of gadgets and tech to make up for the size difference, the hand-to-hand combat. She's clearly highly trained. But yeah, a lot of guards just take one hit and stay down, which it could work if like, we heard cracked ribs and shit like that, but not really. It's lucky that all of them just are taken down by the one hit.
I mean, there's like a guy that she slides into and kicks his legs out from under him, and he's out for the count now.
Yeah, like
They didn't show his like his head bashed against the floor and knock himself out or anything.
yeah, the quick thing I would add to that, obviously it ruins the pose because a lot of it's, Natasha Romanoff being like beautiful and sexy as being a femme fatale. That would be the character archetype they're trying to show off.
As Yelena puts it.
As Yelena puts it. Yeah. But the one like the quick follow up to that, and as far as choreography wise, is just show Natasha just following it up with a quick punch to the head. To make sure they're down for the count.
Yeah, or if she had like her taser batons or something.
Yeah.
That's just a later gadget, though.
Mhm. Sprinks got a point.
Uh, just a little thing to see during the fight at the Grand Prix with Whiplash and Tony. The whip goes around Tony around his suit and holding him until he gets close enough to punch back to Whiplash. The electricity of the whip is not fueling the suit. Curious if Tony learns from this for the future.
That is something I am glad you laid the groundwork for. Tony Stark does learn from every encounter where he's kind of screwed over in fights, which is something I really do like as far as continuing his character stuff. So yeah, thumbs up, good setup. I will talk about that when we get there.
Good. Just something to point out. I'm like, oh, a little setup, nice.
Yeah.
Uh,
One of the things. Oh,
I was just gonna move on. I do have a question that maybe the two of you can answer that I just didn't understand really. Is Ivan's arc reactor he made for himself the one Tony currently has in this movie, or is it more based on the one he made in the cave, like the box of scraps kind of one, where it's more of a power source of its own without palladium?
It's kind of its own thing because Ivan only has the blueprints for the large arc reactor that his
which is
father was
presumably
part
what
of.
Tony based his original design
The
off
first
of.
one off of, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tony was the first to compress it, and as far as we can tell, that's not public. So this is Ivan's own take at shrinking it.
Well, unless it was blueprints or anything that his father had from working with Howard, if he had.
We'd have to see that.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
he had
I
blueprints
I
for
don't
a
would.
remember if there
compressed
was any at the
arc
beginning of the
reactor.
movie in his like office or.
Yeah. Yeah, I would lean towards more. It's supposed to be more like his box of scraps arc reactor, purely because one of Tony Stark's first lines in going to see Ivan in the prison is like, "Pretty decent tech. Cycles per second were a little low," kind of implying that it's on the lower end of the scale, but it was still nonetheless something on the scale.
Which is then leads me into my question of asking, how did Ivan know about the palladium poisoning on Tony?
Yeah, I got nothing for that one. My best interpretation is he can see like maybe he saw the crossword puzzle on his neck from the road crash, but I don't have any point at where that's demonstrated to me on the film.
That I don't know. He's like knocked out on the hood of a car, and next he sees Tony, he's in a Iron Man suit. So that
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
if he knows that Tony Stark has an arc reactor in his chest, and his blueprints involve uh, palladium
Palladium.
in it, I can believe he could deduce that there's going to be a negative byproduct of that being in someone's chest.
okay. I wrote down
Okay.
that it's a good guess, but I didn't have any idea of like how he actually knew.
He knows about arc reactors, so I think it's enough, at least for me, to determine he would be knowledgeable enough to deduce that.
I could okay. I was just didn't know if it could be written better. If it's his is based on the big one, which is the beginning movie, first one before the Palladium Core one. So then he asks like, how did you find a way to get enough power? And then he taps and he goes like Palladium coring, and then Ivan intelligently enough says, "Oh, how do you get past the poisoning?" or something like that. Because then it's answered with enough information for Ivan to then have a guess. Otherwise, it seems like he kind of shoots it out blindly.
Yeah, it's kind of an inference that we have to take because in the scene it's supposed to play as a uh, Ivan being intelligent enough to deduce that's what's going on, but we as the audience aren't able to follow his logic along.
Yes.
Funny enough,
It's
that's a
merely
complete that
information for the audience knows, and they're like, "Oh, bad guy. Bad guy knows too. Oh, he knows a weakness, but how?"
yeah, I mean, that's funny enough, that's a common complaint we had with the detective season or for Murder Mystery, is as long as we can follow along the logic of the detectives, I'm generally okay with it. But in this case, yeah, there's not really much to go on as to how Ivan deduced that other than he has the designs, but is that enough questionably to for him to infer that there's poisoning on Tony?
I guess Brinks's addition, I think, would just be icing. I think what we have is enough. At least that's where I'm at with it.
Okay.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah. I
I'm
think it's
not
just a
quite
good
sure.
guess, an estimated
I'm not
guess.
quite sure. I'm kind of 50-50 funny enough between you two on this one. I think I want the icing because I need more to flesh Ivan's character out in order for him to be a little bit more above like generic villain. Um,
That's
but
why I asked
I also
if Ivan's ran on palladium coring, then easy to know, but it doesn't seem it does.
yeah, the easy fix for this would be visually is what does Tony Stark's like display say when he's scanning his arc the arc reactor in from Ivan? Because there's a point where he crushes it, and before it says anything, it says stuff on the side of
Good
it.
question. I don't know.
Because if that display says palladium poisoning or palladium and shit like that as part of the core in the design, then I don't have an issue.
Something to go back on, I guess,
Yeah,
because I have
information
no
I
idea.
like.
Yeah, I will pull it up. Let me see. Crimson, go.
Uh, sure. So I'll talk about Pepper Potts. I th- I like the direction they took her in this. It's kind of just a natural progression of her character from the first one. She's very stern with Tony. She pretty much organizes his life already and kind of just runs the business in the background, anyways. So putting her up front as CEO makes sense. Tony can trust her to do it. She's capable enough to do it. I can buy it. Um, her being mad at Tony for his irresponsibility while she's running the business, totally buy it. So I think just all in all, really good. And I mean, even during the whole disaster at the expo, she's like, "No, I'll stick around." It's like she's a good CEO, better than most probably.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't say anything about palladium. It says repulsor output, cycles per second energy, and weight calibration. I think. Can't read some of it. It looks fuzzy, but it's cool that those diesels are still there. But nothing about palladium.
All right, then my point still stands on that.
Yes.
With Pepper, though, Crimson, one of the lines she says that I think was really good, or just well written in, is on the plane. How we get that Tony's dying and he only has so much time left and he doesn't really know how much time he does have with Pepper, and he's nervous about like how to go about it where he doesn't make the last moments of his life with her saddening or pitiful upon him, but also just like passable, but enough information that she gets his sentiment of where he's come from. That kind of like whole duality is working with. But I do like her line of that not everybody runs on batteries.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was just so direct to Tony, but also just like the human condition and difference and everything. I just thought that worked very well.
It's a very layered line because now we as the audience know his palladium poisoning and his battery is replacing the palladium core. So there's a quite a few layers going into that line, but also just as you go, it shows their modus operandi.
Yes.
But yes, to kind of piggyback on what you said, Crimson, I also really like that. It makes sense that Pepper would be the one to be put in charge of Stark Industries, while Stark theoretically focuses on being Iron Man.
mm,
Um, I will jump to uh I guess I'll jump to the uh small bits with uh Stark, punching Happy and their like little workout session together. It without necessarily needing to be overt, it kind of shows how their relationship is. They clearly do this a lot. Um and I like that it's just incorporating Happy in another aspect of Tony Stark's life because Happy is obviously mostly a background character, but Tony Stark's relationship to Happy is one of the grounding mechanisms to make Stark feel like a real person, I think. Um, and obviously, this is important stuff for Happy too later on in the MCU to know how much like Happy looked up to Stark and respects him to show that transition with in Peter Parker's movies.
Yes.
yeah. I think it's I think Happy is just an interesting character all around because He's been in a lot of movies without. I wonder what his total runtime is in the MCU. Actually,
Good question. I think it just it might teeter on 35 minutes.
yeah, that probably wouldn't be too far off. I'm trying to think of like Iron Man 3. I don't think he's in it that much because he gets injured.
Is the whole badge scene.
And he also has the whole spying on uh Mandarin dude. I don't know his name.
Trevor.
I just know that he screams "I am the Mandarin" at the end of the film. That's
Uh,
how much I
Killiage or
avoid that
whatever.
movie.
Oh, Kit Richard. Yeah.
That sounds right, but I don't remember.
He also has a whole scene in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yes, and then
Yeah.
he has a lot in Spider-Man, not Homecoming, but he has more in Far From Home.
Yeah, he has it in both. Yeah.
Yeah, he's in all the he's in every movie for Tom Holland. Uh,
Oh, he might have more than 35 minutes then.
Yeah,
yeah,
probably.
yeah. I
He might
think
even have an
his
hour.
yeah his total screen time on screen total, even as a background character, might be closer to an hour. Because I'm just thinking of No Way Home as well. Now he's with Aunt May, like in the house with him and at
Yeah.
points.
The sleep pack and all the villains in his apartment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's around quite a bit. Uh, I do like. Well, that's for those films. I was gonna say I like that Dummy stays with Happy. Warms my cold dead heart a little bit. Uh, Funny thing about one of the facts I read about Mickey Rourke. A lot of the bird stuff was his idea.
Hold my boat.
Was it worth it?
Yeah. No, no, it wasn't. But some of it's funny, but that has an effect of those scenes feel way too long, and we're not doing enough with these two characters in the same room.
It feels fluff.
Yeah, a
Yeah, but
lot
it's
of
so
Not
it's
really any
strong
weight.
fluff.
it's. I just feel like the bird is like, you didn't give me my bird, you didn't listen to me, so now that's my breaking point. I'm not going to listen to you. And then Hammer's like, all right, take the bird, take his shoes, show him who's in charge. And then it's like, Hammer, and now
Yeah,
Ivan doesn't care.
I don't know if that's even a breaking point. I think that's just to show Hammer being an idiot. I genuinely don't know if that's a breaking point because it comes across to me like this was Ivan's plan the whole time.
I think so, upon
Yeah,
him
like
removing the head of the robot. I think that was the starting of like, oh, he's just going to make them drones now.
Like, go on, put your head in there. See, he can't fit his head in there, Ivan. This is such a unnecessary bits. There's a lot that I would like to reword and rescript for those two
Well, it does.
interacting.
It would help, but it does fit Justin Hammer.
It's
does
in
fit him.
character. It's like I said, it's in character. I don't have an issue with that. I want more substance with the character instead of the fluff.
Yeah. No, it does feel like a lot of the Ivan and Justin back and forth is a lot of fluff.
Yeah, because like I said, one of the things the reason why I feel like this film is bloated because they can cut a lot of those scenes down to just like, for lack of better words, the meat and potatoes. Um, and one of those things that I think they could do is give them like a tech talk, give them some tech talk where they could talk techno babble about how something works, and Ivan can demonstrate himself being smarter than Justin Hammer in other particular aspects beyond just the software stuff. Because Justin Hammer otherwise just comes across as a incompetent buffoon, and I do think that's part of Justin Hammer's problem as far as not really being villainous. He's more of a comedic relief character, even though he's supposed to be an antagonist. That goes into the tone problem I think you brought up, Springs, at the start of all this.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, the the casting of Sam Rockwell as Justin Hammer and the character they pulled off in the movie, I think, is fit very, very well. But just having the character in this story
Acting in this
is a
manner.
tone clash. Yeah. Which is good. I see the point of it, where Ivan being this
Yeah, I
very
see what they're trying to
broody,
do. Yeah,
unfriendly, villain, very against Tony because of how he's wronged his father and all that. And then Justin Hammer being a weapon manufacturer, the opposite side of Tony, what he used to be, and now rivaling about the War and Peace situation and angle. But I don't think it's too much to have both. I just think they're not blended
they're not well
well.
integrated enough.
Yes.
It's funny enough. I'm going to use a comparison for pairing. I'm going to use this is a future film audience, so brace yourselves. But Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds, Wolverine and Deadpool, like their dynamic is similar in the sense that one's super jokey and the other one's dead serious and broody. So it's not. It's a fairly regular archetypal pairing of who these character archetypes are supposed to be. But my issue is just with the execution of it.
Good example. Different tone,
Yeah.
but similarities that fit. Yes.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm using them as more of an archetypal example. Um, yeah. Crimson, got a point you want to jump to?
Yeah, it's the, I guess, time frame of the movie. We get Tony at the beginning has, what was it, 7 days essentially? 7 days, 23 hours and 14 minutes approximately till he would succumb to the palladium poisoning. It shows it on his computer. That's where I got that number.
Okay.
Because it's not said, it's on the screen though. And at the rapid pace of which we see the poisoning, it makes sense that's a 7 day estimate. Because at the beginning, at the presentation, he's at 19%, and I think we see it go as far as 53.
89 before the birthday.
Because 89. Oh,
Yeah.
so the week estimate makes sense to me. Now, what Nick Fury did, I don't know how far back that set. I guess they said it was more like a mitigation of stuff than actually
It
didn't.
wasn't a
choosing it.
Yeah, it
cure.
didn't cure
It
him, but
was like a
So
detox.
yes, it took it out of his neck. And at the beginning of the movie, with the 19%, we don't see any on his neck. So I think it's at least around that ballpark. So maybe it's given him another week.
maybe.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah. Enough to put him back to work, as he puts it.
Yeah, I'm getting at more with the timeline with Ivan being able to build a drone army within a week.
Well,
Because
he
he does have the
just
base suits, which makes
yes.
sense. That's fine. But he also has to work with creating the heads, and that takes manufacturing time and getting
Yeah.
the
They're
materials and
yeah.
stuff.
I
Do you think
kind
Ivan's
of
doing it by himself? Do you think he has access to all of Hammer's guys and get things sorted out, kind of
We
thing?
I
don't
would
see that.
yeah, I would
It would
assume
make
he does,
sense.
but I would appreciate that being shown, like him directing around a few people and what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to do it.
That would
Or
greatly
maybe
help
the or
the time.
yeah, or maybe that would damage the time in the sense of, well, he's supposed to be dead, so the fewer people that know he's alive, the better. So he might be have to work alone. But then that's another aspect we need to be shown about how he's able to get enough of this material done within a week because he builds himself like 3 arc reactors for his last suit.
Yes,
And he makes that suit from scratch, that last suit.
he's
That
supposed
that
to
is not a
be
Justin Hammer suit.
no, he's supposed to be dead. Yes, but I think there's plenty of Hammer guys who see him. The 2 goons from the truck, the guy giving him the food at the table, the 2 over by the plane, the one he's walking around throughout the facility. It's a handful of
Yeah,
people.
I can infer that those are like people that Hammer trusts specifically.
Oh, I mean,
Oh, and yeah,
well,
less the
still, but in
better.
that sense, the ones that
Certainly.
Hammer trusts, Ivan can talk through them to get the materials he needs. not directly to
Yeah.
like the people building it.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you, Crimson. The less, the better. So I can see that putting a limitation on the timing frame. Um, but I do think it would be better to us see him putting other people to work with just like his knowledge and skill set.
Because we get something here that kind of bugs me more because there's one thing turning the suits into drones, but he makes his own suit and he doesn't have time to test it like Tony did. And he doesn't have blueprints on making an Iron Man suit. This is a complete Ivan original suit. So there's no testing flight. There's none of that, which was kind of an issue with Obadiah. Was he never got to test the suit, but he was proficient with it.
It would
Yeah, the
be
icing
Kind of
problem.
goes the same here.
yeah. It
I go
would
yes and no.
I mean, he knows how to use the whips. I know that.
Yes, I don't think it's 100% from the base. I think he's using one of Hammer's designed for people suits because it fits about the same size.
His suit
I
looks
think
bigger than the
he's
drone suits, if that's what you're talking about.
I don't know about that. I'm sure there's changes to it, much like how Hammer changed War Machine to make it all clunky. You know, Ivan's changed it so this one looks more clunky. I think just to incorporate these whips and technology throughout it, but I don't think it was starting from scratch. I'm not saying that giving feasible
Because what I
amount of
can
time to do it
recall,
within 2 weeks, but and especially do it
what
hidden.
yeah, that's also true.
But I do think he has enough within the Hammer facility to work on that.
Oh yeah, this I'm I'm looking at the suit. That doesn't look like the drones. It's all welded and looking very different.
yeah.
Kind of cool actually in this photo. Too bad they didn't really showcase the suit. It was really dark. Kind of.
Had to hide the CG. Um,
I don't see it one to
yeah.
one, but it's a baseline.
Uh, I can see him making his own suit. I don't have an issue with that. I think my issue is the secrecy around that. How would he keep that a secret from Justin Hammer when, he has people watching him theoretically most of the time work?
Yeah.
I'm in agreement. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. So again, I think I'm in agreement with your overall point though, Crimson. If it being a timing issue, yeah, I think I do got some issues with that. It really depends on how much Nick Fury's like not cure but symptoms checker set him back because it might not be it might not be that he was set back a week. It might have been that he was set back more closer to like where he was like several months ago for all we know.
Yeah, I suppose.
But again, going based off of the blood toxicity stuff, I'm not sure how he lived through all this time. Because if you went from 19% to 89% within a week, that's kind of a huge jump.
It is a big jump. Yeah.
For having that thing in his chest for up to 6 months. That would be I guess that would be my bigger time issue because I don't know the whereabouts of that. I quite like OCD Tony Stark with the whole spinning like wheel on the whole spinning like thing on Pepper's desk. I quite like that his OCD and it bothers him.
Yeah, it's a good little thing to add. And I like Pepper's reaction to it. Just sick of him at the moment.
Yeah,
This isn't important, Tony.
yeah. He's like, "Yeah, I'll give you like a minute to apologize."
Oh, she's very busy.
Yeah. But this is also after the birthday party and stuff like that, so that frustration is very, very, like, palpable.
Yeah, she's talking about all the messes, the fires she has to put out, as she was saying.
How are we looking on notes, gentlemen?
Don't exactly know because of the popcorn style. I got at least out of 2 pages, 1 whole page is done.
Alright. Crimson, how are you doing?
I got a couple I could choose from.
Okay. I'm just getting a sense of where y'all are at.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Goldstein, the rapper that Tony Stark has, at his birthday, that is an actual sorry, DJ, not a rapper, DJ. That is an actual DJ.
Oh, cool.
So, neat little reference to, again, make the world feel a little bit more in our world, I guess. Alright, Springs, you jumped to a point.
Does how do I word this? Does Tony drink his own urine?
If it's filtered and as he says, I don't have an issue with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
But I think he was kind of just making a point to Pepper.
yeah. It's cool that the suit has that function. I appreciate that because that's kind of a jokey thing that people would bring up in real life.
Mhm.
Crimson point.
So the senator guy, whose name I don't remember, Stern, Senator Stern. He might be relevant in the future of the MCU, but here I do like that he was yoinked back at the end to give Tony a medal, and I like that he was still a jerk about it, even
Yeah,
trying to make it good for the
it,
public.
it's annoying how much a little prick could be.
Yeah. Do you? Eh, I don't need it, but I feel like I would have liked Tony to tell Nick Fury he'd want the senator, because at this point I can't tell if it was Tony's choice or Nick Fury's choice to get him.
I think I like it more if it's Nick Fury.
What do you think, Springs?
Yeah, can you question what's your question again? What do you mean?
Uh, so what we get is Tony tells Nick Fury um, he has a favor for the award ceremony or whatever
Yeah.
that he called it. I forgot. And he's like, "Okay, I can do that." And then we cut it to being the senator. So what I don't know is if Nick Fury chose to do that senator or if Tony told him.
Oh, I'm 100% on Tony asked him.
100%, not even
Yes.
99, but
No.
100%.
Tony asked, "Hey, I have a favor. Can you get Stern to be there to award me?"
And that's what I'm saying. I wish they kind of said that because
Oh,
they
I think
didn't say
okay. I think
Stern.
that's heavily implied. I don't think Fury came up with that.
And Fury does keep tabs on Tony and knows it would be something Tony would be into. Um,
But that
I mean, I'm agreeing. I do think it's what Tony would have said, but
it
I
leans a
think it would be
little into
stronger other
it
to
would
state it.
aid, but I think it leans into a little if it was Fury's decision, maybe a little too fast on Fury's sense of humor. I don't know if that fully fits his character.
Huh?
Because Tony getting the one up of a swap for the Senator Stern from the court case to kind of put him in his place feels so much more of a Tony thing than Fury to decide that to make Tony feel better while putting down Stern that Fury has no connection towards.
Well, the connection to Fury to Stern is through Winter Soldier.
But that's later.
That's later. But I do think it would be within his sense of humor. I mean, this is a guy who looked blatantly at Tony and said, "I got my eye on you," while wearing an eye patch.
Yes,
Very much
but that's between the
that fits the
two.
humor, I think. Yeah, I agree. There's no blatant history between the Senator and Nick Fury. Um, but like I said, I would personally find it funnier that if it was Fury who did it. Though that being said, I recognize the setup is there that Tony probably is the one who asked specifically for Senator Stern.
Yeah, I just don't sit where I think it would be Fury's decision. Fury's decision to agree to the favor asked by Tony, but not Fury's decision to choose Stern on his own doing.
Yeah, they need a presenter. That was the whole start of it, right?
Yeah.
Um, I will jump to one of the little bits that I do like of when Iron Man arrives at the expo in his Mark 6 and Justin Hammer is put off. I do like that Iron Man like tells Hammer to go like calm to the crowd so he can talk to Rhodey. So I like that Hammer has got the wherewithal enough to get over his shock to do that after Stark tells him go talk to the crowd. I need to talk to Rhodey kind of bit because Hammer's not he doesn't know he's being implicated yet.
Yes, he's no genius.
No.
But it is interesting how he thinks he's a guest at Stark's own
The Stark Expo, yeah.
convention, the expo, and to think that Tony wouldn't even try to play something on him in general. This is obviously an actual threat thing, but Justin Hammer just being like, Tony, this is my thing. Kind of funny to think how naive he is. Letting
Yeah,
his
maybe.
rival present and then not expect him to do anything.
Yeah, well, I imagine that since the expo is supposed to be going on all year long, I imagine there are constant presentations, but we just don't see them because they're not relevant to the story.
Yeah.
Crimson Point.
Ska Crimson, sure. The actually on the expo, I don't know if they stated it or what. They probably didn't. I don't remember. What Why is it happening at this particular time? Is it set
The
to like an anniversary or something?
I think it's a couple things. It's part of Stark wanting to leave behind a better legacy. Um, and it's also happens to line up with I think the 50th anniversary. Maybe that was said somewhere. But I think a lot of it has to do with it's Tony Stark wanting to leave it behind a better legacy. I think that's all said in his speech because he knows he's dying, so he wants to be remembered as this person, not the Ironmonger slash uh, war profiteer from the first one.
Okay. So it's just convenient that the expo is happening at the same time Nick Fury would take an interest in the element thing happening, and just happens to be tied to the expo.
Yeah, I mean the only timing we have for everything going on right now is the Coulson being deployed into Thor. Essentially, that's why he leaves Iron Man 2. He's going into Thor. Um, so there are multiple things going on in the universe. So Nick Fury focusing on Stark right now is because he has the time to do that.
Well, I mean, like, so regardless of if the expo was happening or not, Tony was going to have the palladium poisoning.
Yeah.
And then Nick Fury would probably still be involved and give him the powered briefcase to get the element thing going. Uh, so the thing I'm getting at is Tony just happened to pick the expo thing, which happens to be relevant to the element thing.
Yes, those are all coincidence. I would
Okay.
think so because, like I said, the one thing that's working here is because Tony wants to leave behind a better legacy. It makes sense that he wants to start up a Stark Expo, but it is convenient that this is all happening at once in order for him to leave. In order to lead him to use the expo like map presentation thing his dad built for him to find the new element. Uh, Sprinks point.
Yes, I'm just pondering it all over. I don't know how much of a coincidence I fully see all that being. It falls onto time, and I don't know the time of things.
Yeah, well, I mean, the coincidence bit for me, it's lucky 6 months and it's now hitting like the palladium poisoning. That for me is where the timing and luck come in. I think everything else happening at once is on the coherent side. It's just
Oh, Sprinks, are you on the side that the expo is set to like an important event, or Tony doing it for legacy purposes?
I think Tony doing it for legacy purposes because he's coming up to the understanding that he's dying,
Okay,
which is why he checks his blood toxicity after the event.
okay. That's where I'm leaning, which kind of I see as convenient that it just happens to be tied with the element stuff.
That's where I was going with, like, the map was in his old CEO office, which maybe he never went to, so it's kind of like a storage place that Pepper's in charge of. And I was like, how convenient is it for the map to be in Pepper's office? But if she's newly appointed CEO and it already looks like a messy office with things kind of cluttered around a bit with some stuff in boxes, and um, Natalie, quote unquote, Natasha is helping adjust all those things. Um, it seems fitting for that to be there and it's fine, rather than coincidental just move the plot along to find the element out of it. So
It's also lucky that Tony just half draped over it so he can walk by it when leaving to sea. But if he didn't
true, but
interact with it at all, then he would miss it, and then the movie wouldn't happen probably.
maybe I don't know. He was still playing the tapes in the video, anything from the box that Fury brought him. So he could have picked it up in there by watching the tape of his dad leaning against the
Yeah, but
table
he
and then
already went
going to go
through it.
find it. Could have played it off that way. So there's still a visual aid of him finding it. And now maybe he's like calling Pepper, "Hey, do you know where the map is?" And she's like, "Tony, that's not important." And he's like hands
well,
up
he
and
does.
calls
Well,
Happy,
he
or like,
does. Sorry, you finish.
I'm just saying he could, like, that could be his fixation on solving something because he saw it in another way rather than seeing it in person in the office.
Yes, it's possible if they wanted to do that, they could do that.
Yeah, the film, or at least in progression, he does see the video with his dad before he sees the thing in his office. So there
Yes.
is
Mhm.
some setup for him keeping an eye out for it. And it's kind of implied that that stuff was all cluttered there, but just not moved out of it until he got there.
Yeah, I don't know if he was keeping an eye out for it. He just recognized it.
Yeah, he
But
just
he's
I think it is that he just
but
recognized
he's
it, and then
seen
he
it
took a
at a
step
different
back and
angle.
yeah.
Also, that table's got to be, gosh, going on 50 years old, maybe.
Looks good for 50.
Would he have um had someone ship it to his house instead of
No,
risking it getting damaged on the drive?
I don't think so. It's a very Tony move. If he needed it now, he's going to do it as fast as he can now.
I don't know if it's worth the damage risk on it actually. It's not
I
protected at all.
Yeah. I mean, I would be satisfied if he had a bag over it and we could just infer what it is, but the fact that it's just exposed, I think I might take a little bit of issue with that.
Like, what if some of the trees blew off because of the wind and the trees were actually relevant to it? Then he's screwed.
You might look at the model on the video and then the model he has, and ask Jarvis to put in things that are missing.
At that point, you wouldn't even need the model.
I don't know.
All right.
Tony Stark is a terrible liar. Going back to the scene where he's talking with Pepper, he's like so like, "Are you blending in here well, Natalie?" And just the annoyance that comes over Romanoff's face.
Yeah. I mean, she did say she was surprised he was able to keep his mouth shut.
Mhm.
I don't know if line's the right word for that. Seems more
I
just
mean,
Probing?
probing, testing, challenging.
he is lying, but not overtly.
What's the lie? You find yourself comfortable? How's that a lie?
No. The lie is that he's not telling people what she is.
Oh,
I'm
oh,
extending. We've had a
okay.
discussion of what lying is
Yeah.
before on this podcast,
Like
but
that just falls
that
into
would
the
tie
difference.
into yeah.
That he's
He's
keeping
not.
her alias.
Keeping a
Yeah.
secret to me isn't lying.
Yes, I know.
Well, again, what you said we brought up in the past. I don't remember where we covered it. It was on some episode.
Nor do
It
I.
was on her.
But if people
Uh,
tune in now, it's like, oh, that's where I lie.
It was on her. Talked about
Oh,
lies
it's
of omission.
her. Great, yeah.
uh,
Wow, what a fancy coinkydink that it's connected to Scarlett Johansson.
That's true.
Ha ha ha. Um, I like the subversion with the ex-wife, but it calls into question Hammer's competency as a weapons maker.
Did it ever
I
work?
think it is a piece of trash.
Do you think it was ever a thing?
I
mean,
would
I know
think
why.
it'd have to be.
Yeah, it's I don't know why. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, it's funny, but it calls into question. It's like, why would Hammer have government contracts if this is his big cojones? Like, this is the big thing that he
It,
hyped up.
it would be nice if he gave a weapons demonstration so we could see it actually operational.
Yeah,
Like a
Because the one time it's
Jericho.
in use, it doesn't work. Yeah, like the Jericho.
yeah. It would be interesting to see that. It has a range thing, and that's could lead into why it doesn't work for Rhodey in that moment. So like, it didn't get far enough from the user to detonate, because there is weapons that do that. But my issue with that, again, is just it comes down to just it makes Hammer incompetency like reach the point of unbelievability as to how he functions in the world with his weapons and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's where I have it. Is it's kind of unbelievable.
Because I mean, like, the guns theoretically work. I don't see a shotgun ever used in Rhodey using his the War Machine suit, but it everything else seems to function just fine.
Yeah, his like shoulder Gatling gun, which was the thing Hammer sold, worked.
Oh, I thought all of Hammer's weapons, not the exact ones that was shown, like a grenade launcher and shotgun, whatnot, but all weapons into the War Machine were manufactured by Hammer Technology.
There were,
Yes.
but I'm saying explicitly to his like selling pitch that the Gatling gun was on the table. The other guns, like the little Uzi, yeah, the grenade launcher stuff, that's not really put into the suit, but the Gatling gun was.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
We don't see those weapons in use, is
No.
what I'm saying. So there's not a continuity to draw from the weapons that Rhodey wants to plug into the suit, and in what there is being used in the moment when he's having a showdown with Stark.
Yes. The only little tidbit to that is when asked which ones do you want, Rhodey says all of them.
Yeah, but like I'm saying, then that would mean, okay, so where's the shotgun being used? Where is this being used? It's one of those things that I don't need to see, but it would have been cool to get continuity on. So like, one gets too close, he uses the shotgun bit. You know,
Yeah, I can get that. I can believe they're all incorporated, just not used.
And
uh,
what is Rhodey's like designation? What's his title?
Is he
Colonel
Colonel? Yeah, Colonel James
Colonel
Rhodes.
James Rhodes.
Okay. I was thinking whether he'd be authorized to do this whole deal or not. And
He got his general's permission.
He kind of is the only one
and
who can, quote unquote, fly the suit and operate
Yeah,
it.
he's the one familiar with Stark Tech. I'm totally fine with him getting the clearance for this because the general explicitly gives him clearance for this, or his commanding officer. I don't know if it's his general.
Yeah, just seeing the suit getting dismantled there also kind of seemed a little weird. Like it's just getting dismantled in a hangar by one guy and Rhodey.
uh,
Like
funny
I feel
enough,
like it'd be a top priority thing.
I don't have as much issue with that because he's from weapons development specifically. He is a pilot, but they say in the first film that he is Colonel Rhodes from weapons development. So he
Yeah.
has some wherewithal as far as engineering is concerned.
And I guess just the setting is weird to me.
The setting,
That they're
I will
doing
agree, is
like
a
a
little weird.
suit autopsy in the middle of a hangar.
Yeah, that to me, I will agree is weird. If they set up them like a lab in the corner of the hangar, then that would be more believable.
I don't know if a
Um,
lab is needed.
yeah, I mean that's an exaggeration, but something akin
A
to
designated
that,
spot.
a designated spot would be cool. Um, and yeah, I'm in agreement, Springs. It's we can assume that none of the other weapons are used in the final fight. I'm just saying it would be cool to get the continuity of them being used in the fight.
Yes.
So that way, this scene doesn't feel as time wasty as it does. I will jump to. Uh, I like this the synthesizing the element, the new element stuff for the new arc reactor. Um, it's a very like sci-fi thing, which I'm totally cool with. But as long as you get that the character knows what they're doing, I will typically buy into what I'm seeing. So I do like that we get a whole sequence of him like essentially building a small semiconductor to try and synthesize the new element, and uh, we get a lot of cool visuals. So we know it's like hard work to do this, and this is why not everyone can synthesize it. It's a neat little bit of like pseudoscience being put on display for the sake of trying to make this new thing that Stark needs to make.
Yeah, my issue with it was just why he didn't have the mirror pointed at the triangle. I don't know why he had to turn it while it was on.
My only interpretation of that is that it needed to be reach a certain level of cycles through the conductor first before he can turn the laser to where he needs to turn it. Because you can see it powering up and it getting like it's not a straight beam at first, but it once it becomes a straight beam, it's reached the speed he needs it to, and then he starts to turn it. Uh,
Well, then he could just point it to the side of the triangle and then move it like an inch to hit the triangle, so he doesn't have to at half his house.
yeah, I agree. There's some fixes and tweaks I can make to that. It's very cool visually. I don't think
Yeah.
it cuts through everything equally. It just knocks some stuff over. I do like the idea that this hard lighted technology is kind of forming into something enough to throw things out of the way, but it also just happens to cut things in half. So it's not consistent either with the implementation of that, even though I do think the scene is overall pretty cool.
And Captain America's shield was used, kind of.
Kind of.
One of the prototypes, I think. At least that's how I interpret it as.
Or even Coulson's like, "Do you know what this is?"
Yeah.
And
Oh
we know
yeah,
Coulson's a fan.
yeah, our attention is drawn to it for sure. I think it's one of the prototype things that Howard Stark made. We just don't see like this particular prototype in First Avenger.
No.
So that's 2 movies in a row where Cap is referenced.
I wonder if we're getting a Cap movie. Um,
No wonder.
yeah. Springs got a point.
The just to go off the the previous, I don't know if there was anything feasible to Tony that would have worked as a test, um, with his design and everything, kind of makeshift to keep those tubes up and after breaking down a wall and everything to make them align to test the sync. So upon the beam getting to the point of use to be able to turn it, I don't know if he'd be able to calculate the angle unless he had Jarvis to help. I feel like Jarvis could have helped and 3D mapped it, but Tony seemed to put it all in his own, being the makeshift look of it all. So The comedy bit I liked out of it was it shooting into the wall and split in part like a locker, and the locker has a big flammable logo on it, and the beam is causing like a laser fire to go through it. So I thought that was funny
Yeah.
detail. But a point I'll go to is at 59:20 after the fight with Rhodey, and Tony is kind of laying down on the ground in his broken down house. Jon Favreau again added in the water lighting element, which was brought up in Iron Man 1 in our coverage of what was the use to have this water lighting. And this water lighting is through like ceiling lights that are reflecting not only just on Tony, but also in the room. And it got me thinking now that this is a second time instance between Iron Man 1 and 2. I can't recall if it's in 3, but of a pattern situation, or maybe something Jon Favreau liked to incorporate that connects to some kind of symbolism meaning or something. I didn't know if the two of you saw it that way or pinpointed it.
Traditionally, rain, outside of usually being a significant like an external thing for sadness. The other thing that water is typically attributed to is like a birth or rebirth. So I can definitely see this being a tipping point for Stark's character as to why he would get that. In the same way for Obadiah seeing that that's for him that's a rebirth to be Ironmonger. That would be my surface level guesses. I don't really know what it would be beyond those though.
What's the instance in this movie of it?
Tony is, after being beaten up by Rhodey, he's kind of just laying down in his suit on the ground. Um, his house is all disheveled, lighting's finicky, but there's like an overhead spotlight kind of thing of the water pattern of like a bluish. Um, it's got some name that I'm sure a marine biologist would know, or uh, but I don't know, that watery pattern through light, but it's reflected
Okay.
right onto Tony. It's not just like in the room.
I don't personally see any symbolism in it. In the first one, I brought up that it could be like a quenching station for the metal work that they were doing in in the workshop. Here, I don't know. Did Tony have a pool or something? The
On his
fountain.
second flooring? I don't think so.
Mm, I don't remember.
He had a water feature, but that's further down into the house.
I'd have to look at it again, but as is, I don't see any symbolism with it.
Yeah, like I said, going just based with surface level stuff. That's all I got is that it's supposed to be the start of his rebirth. He's reached his low point,
Okie doke.
which is kind of true because I don't think the scene right after this is him eating out of the donut and meeting Nick Fury, which is the start of what comes next, pretty much.
Yes.
Um, Crimson, go.
I'm getting thin here.
All right.
So the final, I guess, fight with all the drones, Tony uses this one-off laser, which is cool. It's a cool laser, and I like that they state it's a one-time use, so it's not like, why did you use this on Whiplash? Uh, but it also begs into question whether or not they'll utilize that in the future.
Uh, yeah,
Setting
it,
up equipment.
I can't wait. um, I will jump to uh I guess the Ivan breaking out and to start he directly calls Tony Stark to gloat. Um I it feels like this is kind of like the final push to the climax for the final battle. Um it does come across outside of gloating though, what is the purpose of him calling Tony Stark? Like I'm not entirely sure why he does this. Because if he had remained quiet about it, he would have succeeded theoretically.
Can you
Again,
say that
just
one more time?
he's just writer's asking why did Ivan call after killing the guards? Why he called Tony? Kind of gives him away
Oh.
because Tony still believes he's dead.
Yeah, I thought we kind of talked about that, but I guess it's just to add that character trait to him that um,
He wants to make it personal, which is I think
you
that's a
know,
good enough motivation, but
it's not amazing, but
yeah,
we've established his character's not very amazing either.
yeah. All right, just I guess I wanted to vibe check that particular scene.
I think he wants to make sure that he knows Tony losing or his failure that's coming is by his doing, by Ivan's, and not from Justin Hammer.
Yeah, okay.
I can buy
I'm
that.
uh this is a minor detail for me. I'm really annoyed that Pepper is surprised by the War Machine appearance. Um at the Stark Expo, I mean. Um because no offense to Justin Hammer, but this sort of thing would be prepped like backstage. There would be backstage prep work, and since this is the Stark Expo that her company is running, this sort of information would have reached her about what they're presenting, how they're presenting it, and uh, it's kind of just a world building nitpick that she doesn't know that this was on the docket, or at
You're
least
right.
she would know
I
about
can
the
agree with that.
drones if they would have. If not the Mark II suit. So the fact that it's a complete surprise, I take a bit of an issue with.
Yeah, unless Hammer paid off everyone so that no one informed Pepper about it, but that's not shown. And knowing Hammer, he's not that strong-willed to achieve that. So, yeah, I'll go with the nitpick on that.
You sound like you were going to say something, Crimson.
No, I agree with that.
Alrighty. Sprinks, why don't you rapid fire out a few? Because I know you've, at least last we talked, you had a whole page to go through
Sure,
potentially.
I can do. Right, I'm not sure how you feel on it. You're the biggest with the writing. Hint, hint. The reused line of "learn to let go," which is what Hammer tells Ivan, and then Ivan tells Hammer, with the drones and the bird. Between the two villains, didn't know if you thought that was
Yeah.
strong, good use, if you thought it was weak.
It's on the weaker side for me. For me, again, I find their whole dynamic weak. So I attribute that okay, so in isolation, I like the line usage. The problem is I don't think these characters are defined enough for me to find that super meaningful.
Okay,
Does that answer your question?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
I find the message after the video, from Howard talking directly to Tony of like the future. I found that actually touching, pretty nice.
I would agree. I actually really love that whole sequence with because we get the setup for it with how Tony Stark is perceived from by his dad or how he thinks he's perceived. My dad never told me he loved me. He was cold and calculating. So we get what Tony thinks his father thinks of him, or we get that perception of it.
Yes, and from the
That's
first movie. And then that
yes,
starts with the expo at the beginning of this one where Howard has his presentation on screen and Tony goes backstage. He's not watching.
yeah, and it's also reinforced as well when he sees baby version of himself on the film and Howard's chasing him away to has to refilm something. So that
Yes,
perception is also reinforced before
because that's the
the
memory that young Tony would have of his father, of how he treated him.
yeah. And obviously this is all leading into the twist at the end is like this is for you Tony because you don't understand right now and I it's a very powerful scene. I really love it. Good stuff for characters both Howard and Tony Stark.
Yes, I agree. Crimson, what do you think on it?
No, I absolutely agree. Solid scene. Um, and just how you guys pretty much read Tony's reaction to it, I agree with as well.
I also like the acting from Robert Downey in this scene. That Tony's not crying over it, it's not really messing him up, but it is a different light on his father that he's taken in pretty stoically to this situation to move forward with. I liked how it's not like a big like crescendo music and emotional hit. It's just like a nice touching change.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, how old was he when his dad died? I mean,
Uh,
wasn't he was still a kid, right? He wasn't a
no,
teenager.
Civil
He
War.
was.
Hang on, Civil War. His parents left because the memory of Barf, and in that he looks about somewhere 20s ish because of the de aging, and then
Oh, the
his
piano
parents,
bit.
yeah, and his parents drove off, and that's when the Winter Soldier got to them. Whether that was that night or that weekend, but that's about the age he was. So I'd say young 20s, maybe.
Well, then he would. Hmm.
Could be
No, that
younger.
might
I
I
be a
don't know where the
that
I
de
might be
aging
a
I
came
think
from.
it's
future issue with me.
I think it's supposed to be his teens, but the de aging just didn't do a good enough job because that's going to be inconsistent with what we have
Yeah,
on display
because I'm
now.
sure they took
So
stuff from like Weird Science or any other older movies of his. So, a nitpick I have throughout the whole movie: Jarvis isn't connected to every single technology in the world, and Tony being able to mute anything, I think, is too powerful.
I feel like Jarvis is just sidelined and large. He's not really doing much.
A little. I do like Jarvis a little more in this movie. He doesn't feel as just Paul Bettany reading off 2 hours of lines and leaving. He actually did feel like a back and forth of conversation when being talked to. Um, but just Tony being able to be on the plane and saying mute and the TV mutes, or in the CEO office with Pepper and saying mute and it mutes, and just being able to mute anything with his voice. I just thought was a little nitpicky.
within the house, I'm fine with. I think the Senate stuff, Jarvis being able to hack into that is a bit much, or the phone hacking into that is a bit much. Because I attribute that to being Jarvis, but I'm not 100% sure.
I think that was just Tony.
Um, if it is, I'm gonna side on that being a bit of a nitpick. It's cool, but I think I'm nitpicky a little bit on just the level of ability that his technology allows him.
Okay.
Uh, oh,
I can keep going if you want, or I can pause.
no, we can pause there for a
Okay.
sec. I'll jump to, um, I'll just jump to the action sequence. One of the funny bits because it's a overall a pretty tense scene of Rhodey chasing Stark down. There are some sequences in that flight scene though where stray shots would have absolutely killed civilians from Rhodey. I take issue with the fact he doesn't recognize that. Um, and otherwise, I do think the action sequence is pretty okay. From the flying around in the air to the final fight in the garden area.
Yeah, the flying through the globe to get rid of the drones was good. Since I guess just
That was good.
rudimentary, stupid drones.
Yeah, and I like that that's set up too because they have an exchange of like they can't. No, never mind. That's an Avengers line. Never mind. But I do like that it's set up that he's being chased by them enough that he knows like how well they would fly and stuff like that.
The automatic versus the manual.
Yeah. Um,
I do. I know it's a movie moment situation of like the fight starting and they're using all their weapons and repulsor beams and just straight up punching to build up to like all cool action rather than just Tony immediately saying duck and using the lasers. Because then they joke like, "Why didn't you start with that?" And he goes, "Oh, one-time use." But it does bring up why didn't you start with that, knowing you had it.
I mean, they weren't overwhelmed until the point at which he used it. Because they were faring pretty well up until they were, getting too close enough for them to manage the numbers.
Yes, but it's
So
also not just a one circle 360. It overlaps, which is how Tony's able to get like higher angles, kind of above the little waterfall area, rather than just straight shot. So I feel like he had the range in order to get them all at the start.
yes, and I think the benefit of that is I think more arrived during the fight. I recall seeing another one land in the background.
Oh,
I'm not
Most of the
That I
drones were there for the
sure.
fight, but
that I
not
could be
all of
mistaken on.
them.
I could
Yeah.
be
I'm
mistaken.
not but I can see him saving it until needing it, though. You wouldn't want to blow your one-time use thing out the gate and then regret not having it.
Yeah. It's like having your ulti in Overwatch for only one use. Or in this case, Marvel Rivals, because I think it's more applicable.
Yeah, but if you still got the kills out of it, I mean, I don't know. I think if you used it right off the bat and you got an ace, it's fine.
I mean, if you used Iron Man's ult and Marvel Rivals on a Black Widow right out the gate, and then they have a Luna ult that saved their entire team from someone else's ult, then you would be like, darn, I wish
Well,
I saved that for Luna's ult.
Yeah, if they solo ulted, yeah. But I mean, if you use
Yeah.
it and you got the 6 kills before you even started the percentage of capturing the map, I still think that's pretty good.
Yeah, but what if you got 5 and then Adam's the last one and reses them all? I mean,
That's an Adam Thon.
I'm sorry I brought up the comparison to
They
begin
come
with.
back half health, man.
All right, I got one for you. Why does Ivan let Rhodey and Iron Man talk through the radio still? Why didn't he shut down the communication system?
I don't know.
Obviously,
He thinks
it's for the drama, but to keep them still talking to each other. But I don't see any reason why he would keep that connection open.
Does he think it's like a mental game that is like Tony's best friend's trying to kill him?
Well,
Or just
no,
giving Tony
because
panic?
He would hear them cooperating with each other, presumably.
yeah, Rhodey's first thing he's doing is yelling out warnings. Holy shit, this isn't compromise. I'm coming on your left. Watch this. You know, he's helping him. So
Ivan's getting all this right. Like he's hearing it. Does that come through on his computer?
I don't think
I
we're proving that, but I don't see why he wouldn't, because he has control of the suit.
Yeah, he would have
if he
control of
has control of the
communications,
suit,
but I don't know if he can hear it. Because he might just
It wouldn't take
skip it.
much to assume that they're talking, though.
Well, I'm just saying scenes of Ivan when like the drones are exploding and he sees like deactivate or anything, we would hear Rhodey or Tony coming through on his end if he's listening to them. But if he's not, that just means he's leaving communications open, but he's not seeing it as a problem.
yeah, but that would be the core of my issue, though.
Yeah, he overlooked communications.
Springs got any? Actually, well, Crimson, do you have any more? How are you looking?
Is there anything I have left? Go
While
back
you're
to Sprinks.
searching,
I might have something. Yeah.
Yeah, all right, Springs. Why don't you throw out a couple more?
Hammer yelling at Ivan about making the drones and everything just played off to me. I know this isn't exactly a point of the movie, but the way Sam Rockwell was acting the yelling just kind of made me think like, oh, he could kind of do a Riddler, kind of. And then like in hindsight, I went, I don't know, but
I could
maybe
see
a Jim
Sam Rockwell
Carrey
playing a good role.
Riddler, but not like a Arkham Games Riddler. I don't feel that.
no Paul Dano Riddler. But
I guess it would depend on that front.
Yeah, Riddler's got a lot of range, live action.
I haven't seen Sam. It's been a while. I haven't seen Sam Rockwell in a serious role, quote unquote.
Is there one?
I would need to. Yeah, exactly. If there is one, I would want to see that, and then I could judge whether he would make a good role. Because I think he has the look to be Riddler. It's more of just does he have the acting chops?
I mean, in the Green Mile, what he does is serious, but his character isn't serious.
Yeah,
I would not call that a serious character.
One of the neat details is when we get the drone POV. Sometimes it's in Russian, which is obviously Ivan would put it in the Russian language. Neat little detail.
It's a good detail. Another little detail: Sam Rockwell dances in the movie when he comes up on stage. It's one of his key signatures to acting.
Didn't know that, but makes sense.
Much like Brad Pitt eating or Tom Cruise running, Sam Rockwell dancing is one of his staples.
Good to know. I like that then.
I haven't seen that many of his movies. He doesn't do it in Green Mile.
I don't think
he does
that's
it.
the tricky one. He does some kind of move dance thing in his cell in the Green Mile,
Well, he does like a taunt, but that's not a dance. And then I'm trying to think of uh, Galaxy Quest. Does he dance in that?
Does a little dance thing, I
I don't.
think, when they're at the expo at the beginning, like to the stage. Like I'm guy number 3 or whatever.
I'm just a normal
Yeah.
guy.
And then the whole opening of Mr. Right, that's a whole dance sequence. So
Yeah. Um,
also
Another funny
this
bit.
you go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, I got a funny bit. With they're flying over the cars. Pretty funny. So it's just the one line of car alarms that go off when Tony Stark flies over, and then the rest of the drones fly over, setting the rest of them off. Little funny bit that I enjoyed.
Yeah. The oh god, what's the scientific technology? Just like the velocity wind tunnel movement force or something. I don't know how to
Yeah,
classify it.
Yeah, the Force. Yeah, good. That's a comedy I feel like they don't do much in current MCU anymore. I feel like a lot of it's just like one-off gags now. But there's nothing like subtle. Well, I don't even know if I'd call that subtle, but more subdued, I guess.
I
Not
mean
in
it's
your
not
face.
overt comedy. It's just
Yeah.
there.
Not dialogue
It feels
comedy.
yeah, it feels like world related comedy. So, Springs, you were I interrupted a point you were going
Yeah,
to.
this movie's a little dated because when
A bit.
um they're bringing up all the different branches of the army and all the drones of what they're going for, they missed Space Force.
I know.
I know, such a tragedy. um,
Unfortunate.
yeah, I do. How did you find anything, Crimson? By the way.
uh, yeah, the I guess boxing practice with Happy. Uh, I do like we set up that he was talking about dirty fighting with Tony, and then the fight in the hallway. He does the Mike Tyson ear bite to win his fight, which is dirty boxing. It's
Yes.
Takes one to know
an
one.
interesting, yeah,
Yeah. Which
whole setup
it's
payoff with that.
good setup and payoff for Happy of all people. I like that.
Yeah.
um, I also do enjoy. I guess. Back in the day, I had a big crush on Scarlett Johansson, so I did enjoy that Happy not keeping his eye on the road when she starts changing in the back
Oh
to
yes, must
into
be
her shield
courteous.
suit.
Be a gentleman.
Yeah.
Um,
Um.
I don't know if it's a nitpick, and maybe you two could help me because I'm no explosive expert. But Rhodey's Gatling gun, when shooting at Tony, seems to two-hit cars and cause them to explode from a Gatling gun, which poses to me explosive rounds in order to cause such a thing. But then later in the park fighting using the Gatling gun, it's not doing the same effect.
This is you see all the cars have GTA physics, right? So when one car blows up, the rest of them go up.
I think it's purely for movie spectacle and not in-universe practicality purposes.
Okay,
Hence why it's
Yeah.
inconsistent.
so it is a
Yeah.
difference.
Yes, I would say
Yes.
it's a nitpick.
I would have to see him change out the ammo, which is
Yeah,
something they
there would
didn't
have to
show.
be a visual cue for that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing a detail or something. That didn't make sense.
Um, yeah, if it were explosive rounds, I'd be okay with it. But because there's no obvious change of ammunition that he's using, I don't think that's what's using. I think it's purely just for the visual of what's going on.
Gotcha. Also, classic in movies like this, that a PG-13 setting is set for a film, um, in the use of quote unquote gore is being covered by something that's not blood. So when they're fighting all the drones, the black like oil going everywhere for like the gore effect. Just a nice detail
Yeah,
to add to give that gruesome factor to it without actually going too
into
gore.
gore. Yeah, I also quite like that. Uh, they're getting the effect they want of the splatter without it being the blood.
Yeah.
Uh, I will say I'm greatly annoyed at Ivan for taking his helmet off in mid combat.
Oh, ho, yes. Getting to a nitpick I have.
That's one of mine. Going to what you have to say, sir.
How is Ivan's helmet faster than the speed of a bullet?
Good
As it is.
question.
Next question.
No fucking clue.
That didn't make any
Not just the
sense. I'm
helmet,
like,
but his reaction to close the
yeah, I
helmet.
just
Yeah,
went, is that a slow bullet? I
it can't be though because that's what he uses to save refugees in Iron Man 1.
exactly. I didn't get it. That didn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I have an issue with that too.
Especially
Yeah,
with the
it's
helmet
cool.
off, he can't see anything. It's not tracking
Yeah,
anything,
yeah. He can't track that the suit's arming up to do something.
and his suit is not equipped with like an AI like Jarvis itself. So I don't know what
Yeah.
is protecting him.
That's what we call plot armor for Ivan. Uh, any more points from you, Crimson? Or are you
I
tapped
think
out?
I'm tapped.
All right. How are you looking now, Sprinks?
Very low, very small amount.
All right. Uh, wrap yours up. I will skim through my notes.
Okay. The way to defeat Ivan is Rhodey and Tony both do the repulsor blast that they did at the party kind of thing, and Ivan's in the center of it, but he's unmasked in this scene. And then during the aftermath, when they go over to Ivan after defeating him, we can see that there's like melted and dented in armor of the metal on his suit, but his face is completely intact and fine.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and he's
I-
just alive in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Oh
would have been an insta death.
yeah, yeah. So he's super dead. That also brought back another thing. The first time they did that, it bugged me that Tony was incapacitated and
And Rhodey wasn't,
Rhoda was not. He was
especially
just
since Rhodey
all
was
right.
in an older
See
suit.
ya. He didn't even check if he was okay.
That falls more into the disrespect.
It does.
No, I don't have any issues with that. The suits are equipped to give you life signs and shit like that. So
True,
all he has to do is just look in Stark's direction.
but Tony's suit's more upgraded and evolved than Rhodey's.
Yeah, but if the issue here is that Rhodey woke up first, I don't have any issue with Rhodey looking at Stark and seeing that he's perfectly fine because his heads-up display would give him that information.
That is fine. Yes, I can go with that. Seeing that vitals are okay. Well, quote unquote okay.
I haven't played with this. I'm just going through my notes.
Okay, I'll
so.
go to another one. How Tony know from the park when Ivan was like the bombs are gonna go off and they're all gonna explode? How did Tony know that there was a drone next to Pepper?
How do you know where
I
Pepper
have that
went?
written down too.
Yeah, the best faith assumption is that he can track Pepper's phone. That's all I got. I got no idea how
We
he would
don't
get to
see him
Pepper
looking at
immediately.
anything.
Yeah, he flies immediately towards Pepper, and also that park is way bigger than we think it is with how fast he's going to get to Pepper.
Oh yeah, it's a big park or interior greenhouse thing or whatever.
Yeah, it's larger than I think Disneyland and California Adventure put together. With how fast Tony Stark is flying to get to Pepper before the bombs go off. Pepper is on the other side of it. It feels like.
Yes, I have 3 more. Looking at the rest of my notes.
Uh,
How about
yes.
the post-credits scene? Thor's
Okay, well
hammer.
that has 2 of my notes. So
Ah, perfect. Coulson's there. It's setting up stuff. It is the most blatant post-credit scene so far in setting up things. Because Iron Man 1, it's set up Avengers, I guess. But
It
the
set up a
second
larger
one,
world, is what I'll say.
there's not much. This one's just like, this is the next movie.
as opposed to over, showing like the Captain America shield by Coulson. It's like, you know what this is? It's like, yeah, but here's funny enough, here's Jonathan.
Jonathan.
No, sad. Sure, a couple fans out there got it.
I guess so.
Okay, there's an Ant-Man and the Wasp interview where they ask all the cast, like, what is the name of Thor's hammer? And they're all trying to get it, and Paul Rudd just says Jonathan.
Oh. See, when you
That's
said
funny.
Ant-Man, I immediately thought of that stupid promo of going ants and slapping
Ants.
their
That's
chest.
not stupid.
Ants.
That's not stupid. That's a great
It's
promo. That's
it's very
hilarious.
stupid, but
It's
it's
very
funny.
funny.
It's memorable.
Seeing Michael
That's for
Douglas
sure.
put that much energy into something.
Ants.
Yeah, it's very stupid, but it is very funny. I think I'll jump to Stark and Pepper's final conversation. He's like, "I think I did okay." Where uh, I did enjoy that conversation. Uh, it had a bunch of uh, it's very them, and like it's in character with how that conversation happens because they do a lot of talking over each other and then settling into like what the direction of the scene was about. And I think that's a very quintessential scene for the two of them, like cementing their relationship.
Yeah. No, I
Though I
thought that
am
was good.
annoyed with Pepper just hearing the beeping and just staring at it. Like she was with Tony Stark, a weapons expert, for most of her life.
Good point. She should move.
Yeah.
Especially seeing that everything else was already chaotic. It's not just like out of the blue something beeping.
Yeah. I'm fine with her
Who's worse,
staying. She like wants to
her?
stay until the park is clear, but I feel like she would go to an administrative office for that, you know?
Yeah, probably somewhere inside. But who's worse, Pepper for not running from the bomb, or the kid not running from the killer robot?
Pepper.
Pepper, we're not running from the bomb.
Kid
Poor
wouldn't know.
No, I'd say the kid's worse, but
I'm my issue with the kid is that he's not
Like
running and
a
screaming,
homing
not necessarily
beacon
that he doesn't
or
fully
something.
understand what's going on.
Huh?
Not all kids are going to scream. Some kids have
Or
that
run away.
stupidity,
There's
bravery.
explosions, flying killer robots. I think a kid's smart enough to know, oh, this isn't good.
Um, yeah, no, they're both not good. But I'm going to
That,
stay with
you know
Pepper
what?
being
I can
worse.
stick with that. They're both not good.
If they're both not good, I would still stand that Pepper's is worse because she's an adult. um, and I like the comedy of Rhodey just being on the roof. I was your first to get a roof. That to me is like a tiny glimpse into like what could have been for like um flushing out their friendship.
Do you think he was honest?
Of getting a roof? Maybe.
He was
Uh,
already there.
oh, I'm gonna go with yes because we would hear him arrive.
True.
Okay. Then it just lands on to convenience that Tony happened to land on Rhodey's roof out of all the area.
Yeah, yeah, that would be the result of that. Um, our all right, yeah. Last point, Springs. Or
Two
do you have
more.
more with the end credit scene?
No,
Yeah.
two more. One, in the credits, Stanley is credited as himself and not Larry King.
Okay. I mean, that doesn't really mean anything to me because they don't call him Stanley in the movie. So
Yeah, I just didn't know if that poses more that he's playing. Well, I go with. I know it's not MCU, but in Fantastic Four: Rise of Silver Surfer, when he comes to the wedding, he is Stanley. Like he says, "I'm Stanley. I'm on the list." So in that movie, he is him, which is very kind
yeah.
of meta breaking to that world. But I didn't know because of this credit, and I didn't check for Iron Man 1, and I didn't check for Incredible Hulk, but I didn't know if that like poses like, oh, he's playing himself in the movie, and it's one of those Hugh Hefner things where it's just like named like, oh, because he looks like Larry King in the situation, they just call him Larry King. But I don't know. Last note I have is actually no, two. One, Coulson coming out of his car in the end credit scene. He's on the phone call the whole time. He never takes out his phone to call someone. So he's just quiet upon arrival and picks up his phone. So I don't know if he put
Maybe
someone on
it's
hold.
or the only other thing I have heard is it's his if like for example Fury was on the other end of it, he was waiting for Coulson's report.
I guess that could be. I was just something. The last note I have, though, however, is upon seeing Coulson arrive to Mjolnir, it is a Dutch angle. which is another hint to set up the next movie. And it really made me question, was Thor already in the development of being filmed upon this end credit scene?
Yes, because there's Dutch all over that film, and there's nothing in this film. So I would say that's ripped from Thor.
Oh yeah, this scene is blatant. I mean, this is one of the few end credit scenes that's like directly in another movie, right?
No, this is not directly in Thor. This scene
Not
of Coulson.
directly, no, but it is there. Like it's very blatantly supposed to be there. So it wouldn't surprise me if that they was already in production.
Oh, if this was a scene shot in Thor and they just took it out and put it in as the end
Yeah,
credit? Oh, maybe. I
because
see what you're
it's
saying.
close enough that I could buy that.
I don't know. I just thought it was very interesting to see an end credit foreshadow in the stylized version of the next movie.
Yeah, I think it's just ripped from it. I don't think that was them like, oh, I think they're going to use Dutch a lot in this film. Let's set it up here. I don't think that's what's going on.
Okay.
All right. Any other final bits?
Natasha said Tony was not suit to be an Avenger, and they just want the suit. And Nick Fury kind of said no after hearing Tony out.
Yeah, just a consultant. Oh, I do recall this was like a couple years ago, seeing like a breakdown of I don't know if it's this movie or just Marvel stuff in general or Easter eggs, something. But in the background in the room, apparently Wakanda is on the map as like a point of interest.
Oh, that's handy.
That is pretty cool. If they thought we're thinking that far ahead.
I don't know if that's true. I think it was
Well, I
just
mean, they're just referencing a place in the lore that would exist. I
yeah,
assume that's
Yeah,
what it is here.
yeah.
that's what I could go with.
And there was also somebody that wanted to get in a Black Panther like in Phase 2, I think I recall. I don't remember who that would have been. Eh,
Maybe.
something I'd have to look up.
All right. And with that, I think we can move into summaries and ratings, gentlemen, potentially.
I think so.
How about the casting? Do you think they did a good job
Oh,
casting Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man?
I think so. I think that he was pretty well cast. And I think it was actually
Yeah.
Stanley himself who thought he should be cast that way because of his upbringing and past, or I could be mistaken with Kevin Feige. But someone of Marvel
That was
executive.
Jon Favreau.
Oh, that was Jon Favreau. Who?
Jon Favreau was the one that was batting for him the entire time. Marvel executives didn't want him because of the checkered past.
Got it. That's it.
That's why he's so close with Jon Favreau. All right, and I guess with that, we shall move to summary and ratings. Starting with Sprinks.
Oh boy. Let's see. I will start with my objective. I think the cinematography in this movie is pretty well. I think the CGI in this movie is pretty well. I think the acting in this movie is pretty well, except Mickey Rourke. I think he's the worst actor in this movie. I've never really seen. I just don't think he's a great actor. I know a lot of people could be like, "Oh my gosh, but he's so big and well named." It's like, sure, that's fine. I just don't think he's a great actor. Kind of same with Sam Rockwell, but I think Justin Hammer really fits Sam Rockwell. Sam Rockwell is an actor who, for the longest time, I thought from like I can't remember the first thing I saw him in, but I really thought I just don't like him. I don't like this actor. The more and more I see Sam Rockwell in, the more and more I like him, and he's been gotten better. And I think he just fits Justin Hammer very well with his mannerisms and things. So acting overall is pretty good. Writing, it's passable. The dialogue's fine, but it is choppy a bit, and this goes with like writing in while filming. So it's not. I don't see it as a pacing issue, but it is a tone problem where some of the jokes seem not smooth, and where to do the emotional hits kind of in a scene flow, but then the next part doesn't like die off of it to give you that breather of from emotion to emotion. It kind of feels clunky in that way, and that isn't, I say, a damage onto the editing. The editing tried their best with what they did, and I think the editing's pretty well. and it isn't to the pacing of the movie, because I think it flows very well with the overarching plot and story and everything. It just goes into the writing of scene to scene and how the emotional beat hits, and I think that's the hit. The costume design I think is fine, I guess. The suits for Tony all work. The um, I don't know, Pepper happy in his suit. The Black Widow costume I think is good. Nick Fury in his black suit looks fine. Um, Whiplash looks okay. I prefer Whiplash on the Grand Prix. I think that's the best look of Whiplash throughout this movie. I don't really care for him in the suit. So I think that one's my favorite, like the orange pants. Justin Hammer, fine. Rhodey, fine. I think Don Cheadle is okay. I'm kind of 50-50. I see the benefits to Terrence Howard in some aspects. I see the benefits to Don Cheadle in some aspects. So I'm both work. They're different, but I think they're both passable. Lighting's pretty well good. I don't think there was any necessarily bad lighting. I don't think there were some dark scenes, but they were purposefully supposed to be dark, like the um, conversation of Tony and Ivan in the chamber kind of thing. It was very dark, but that was to give that mood of like meeting the villain. Also being held captive prisoner is kind of his element from the 15 years of prison, so it's kind of like a nice little connection to his place. Somewhat, not saying prison is where he's always been. I'm just kind of like that feel of the knowledge they give you of what his past is. Nice little connection. I think that's everything. I always forget something. I know. I'm sorry. But I have this objectively at a 7.5. There are a lot of nitpicks with this movie, but I don't see a lot of like big issues with this movie. Um, so that's where I'm comfortably putting it at. Subjectively, however, I'm not the biggest Iron Man guy per se. I like Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of Iron Man and Tony Stark. I think he does a phenomenal job. But this movie, I feel like the villain is very whatever. Even if it has two villains, both of them seem kind of whatever. Um, and it's more the story of Tony. I like the introduction to Black Widow. I like more of the Nick Fury, more of the world building of that, of the characters. Um, it's it's entertaining, but it's just not a big like huzzah, I love this, especially compared to the first movie. I think this is a down. It's funny. I think the overall movie is a downgrade compared to the first, but I think the visuals and the technology and the CGI and everything is an upgrade. And I think it's just the difference in the feel, because the first one felt kind of that student filmy beginning level, and I think that fit very well for a vibe or a tone or to that first movie. And this movie feels like it's missed that. It's very different. It's evolved um, more so, and I just don't think it's fully beneficial from it. So it's not entirely negative. I have this, but subjectively, I have it at a 6.
Alrighty. Uh, Crimson. Why don't you go?
All right. So I will start with my subjective. I think this movie is okay. There is some enjoyment to be had. It's kind of interesting going back to this because I feel like when people looked back at, I guess, the Infinity Saga as a whole, and going past that to the newer stuff, a lot of people have said the new stuff's not very good. And then a lot of the defenders like, well, you had Iron Man 2, 3, Thor Dark World, and some say Ultron. But they reference these as like the stinker early films. And looking at this now, like it's not as bad. uh, so at least to me. So it's interesting going back to what's considered like the stinker early stuff. This is only one of the examples though. So I have it at a 5.5. I like Tony and Pepper dynamic. Like I've said, Don Cheadle, I'm not a huge fan of as Rhodey. Justin Hammer is somewhat enjoyable. He kind of overstays his welcome with most of his scenes where he just babbles too much for my liking. And Whiplash is boring. But good action sequences. Happy is most of his enjoyment is through Natasha's interactions with him. I quite enjoy. I like Natasha and Nick Fury in this, and the integration of Shield. I think they did a good job with, even if it was janky behind the scenes. I think that is probably the most enjoyable aspect of this film to me. Objectively, let's see, where should I start with? I'll go with the CG because Frank's kind of brought it up. I think it is a boost compared to the first one. Not a huge leap or anything, but just slight. And I do like the iteration they did with the tech. Things get a little more advanced. The suitcase suit, the suitcase. That's funny. I don't think it's the best looking suit, but I like how it kind of looks like it did just fold out. Design wise, I think they did a good job showcasing its uniqueness. Whiplash's final armor, it's really hard to look at it because it's very dark, but for the podcast I looked at it, and it actually looks pretty cool, which is kind of disappointing. They didn't really showcase it at all. Man, I threw in some subjective there. I do think Rhodey is inconsistent with himself from the first film, because we did say different actors, and we're kind of getting two different roadies, and because we're getting two different roadies, that's kind of an issue because it is supposed to be the same character. No, I don't think it's way off base from Iron Man 1 Rhodey, but he is slightly off on his interactions with Tony. I feel like in Iron Man 1, it was more playful banter. There is playful banter here, kind of like at the end on the roof with the seals fighting over a grape or whatever. But in large, I feel like he's a lot more into himself than his relationship with Tony compared to the first one. Ivan, what Sprinks was saying in the beginning, I think could get stronger with the addition of the flashback of him as a kid and his dad and whatnot. But as is, it's serviceable. It's just very lackluster and weak. We talked about plot armor with a lot of the characters in this. Ivan with the car, Tony with the car, Pepper and Happy with the car, Pepper not blowing up out there because Tony just magically knew where she was and that she was in danger. Lots of plot armor there. The integration of Shield into the storyline of, I guess, Ivan and Justin Hammer, it's fine. They're not too heavily involved with it, other than trying to shut down the armor. Their primary focus is on the element. How they integrated the element, I think, was okay. I think Howard should have made it a bit more obvious that his park or whatever is relevant to the element. Maybe like a secret thing that only Tony would recognize, because as is, anyone, I guess, technically could have figured it out. It's not like a Tony specific thing to solve. But I'm babbling, and I feel like I've said almost nothing at the same time. But I don't think this is as well structured as the first film, which I believe I gave a 7.5. So I'm leaning at a 6.5. It might be a little harsh, but that's where I'm at.
Alrighty, and I guess that leaves me. I'll start with my subjective. As I've said at the start of this film, I have rewatched this film a lot. I still get plenty of enjoyment out of it. I'm at a 7. I think subjectively, I enjoy. Tony Stark is probably my favorite character in the MCU. He's, if not my favorite character, he's definitely top 3. I think I enjoy the action sequences for as short as they are, like the final showdown with Rhodey and them fighting back to back. Definitely loved that as a kid. I wish it was longer and wish it lasted for a while because I was a kid, Still enjoy it now. Some of the jokes still work for me. Um, I quite like Tony Stark's grappling with his sense of mortality and letting it being a driving force for his character. That does dip into objective a little bit, but I think it really elevates Tony Stark a little bit as far as another edge to his character, like what he was doing with his limited time left. And this is something they carry forward into the MCU a little bit about how he goes about doing things and what influences him and stuff like that, which is one of the good anchor points in the MCU. Um, yeah, solid 7. I think I've rewatched this movie many times. I probably will rewatch it again, just by virtue of the fact that I enjoy this movie being an Iron Man film. Um, that being said, on objective, um, this movie has. I'm just gonna parrot real quick. Not as tight as the first film. I have more world building problems with this one. I agree with consistency issues from Iron Man 1 Rhodey to this Rhodey, being it's supposed to be in the same universe. I don't have the selfishness aspect added on the way Crimson does. But I do see more issues in, I guess, the world building plot stuff, which is a lot of it has to rely on this villain being particularly generic. I can infer motivations that he wants to, like, his motivation isn't necessarily to win. His motivation is more to mess with Tony, which helps sometimes, but other times it just brings up certain detriments. Ivan's a pretty weak character overall, but serviceable is the word that we've been throwing around. I think Pepper and Tony's relationship is good. I love the integration of Shield. I'm sorry, John Favreau, but I think this was a good thing to add to the film because I'm not entirely sure what level of integration what the original vision, I guess, on the integration was, but I quite like the amount of it's here. We have a very important character introduction to Nick Fury that's going to be going forward, but I think here he comes off as competent. I think he comes off as intelligent, and he comes off as someone who knows his stuff, and in the sense of just he knows what his role is in this universe, and he just leans into it. It's kind of what Nick Fury should feel like, I think, to in a lot of stuff. Um, Tony Stark has a solid arc, I think, grappling with his mortality. I do think there are parts of it that could be fleshed out a bit more. Not necessarily with Stark, but more his relationship with Vanko or and Ivan, because they really don't lean into that dichotomy enough for trying to establish them as anti-parallel characters. I don't think they lean into that enough. Uh, Justin Hammer, I'm overstays his welcome plot wise. A lot of his scenes drag on, and again, we're missing a lot of the dynamic between these two characters. Nothing is necessarily breaking with the characters, but it definitely affects pacing for me when scenes are dragging on a little bit too long with them. Um, I think Happy is a great side character. Black Widow's introduction was solid for the MCU. I know who this character is going forward. Um, I think I've talked about some of the nitpicks with Rhodey we've had going forward that I will attribute to his character a little bit within the context of the MCU itself. So taking what traits I can from the first interpretation of this character to this second one. Um, there are things I wish were made a little bit more explicit in terms of trying to get the point across of uh, with Tony Stark and his legacy, him potentially training Rhodey. That's all kind of falls into some character stuff and world building. Definitely not as strong as the first film. I still get quite a bit of enjoyment from it, as I said, but I'm also matching Crimson's 6.5. The film is very solid. The acting is great. I just there are some things that hold this film back from being a great movie, but it does fall into the realm of good as far as I'm concerned. And with that, gentlemen, shall I read us out, or do you have any final points?
I think I'm
Nothing
good.
on my end.
Alrighty. Well, audience, thank you for listening, whether it be Spotify, Amazon, Castbox, GoodPods, iHeartRadio, Pocket Cast, and Samsung, and even be on our visual side of things, be it YouTube or Rumble. Thank you for watching our PNG YouTuber slideshow there. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe everywhere. Tell us how much you hate our opinions or how much you love them. And as always, I've been a geeky writer,
I'm Crimson Maroon.
And I'm Springs.
and we will catch you next time. Later, everybody.
Bye.
Toodaloo.